Okay, so welcome to Death by Podcast, and I have decided. My name is Adam. I have a cohort, equal partner, and actually, it was actually his idea. Kevin Kroll is sitting here with me. Kevin, say hi.
Hello.
This is all his idea, so if it goes bad, everybody on Earth can blame him. I am Adam Crone, and we are your hosts for Death by Podcast. This is episode 1, so we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea how it's going to go, but we're here. But we're here to talk about horrible horror movies, and we're going to do that. Actually, they probably won't all be horrible. This one was, but
yeah.
Let's see, what else? What do we want to say? So the idea of the podcast, you want to explain it? It was your idea also, the format.
Originally I thought I was just thinking of just to talk about horror movies, and and it originally was be a list or something, but and then we kind of landed on this one in particular. It's funny because we could really showcase like how good things can be, and then how really bad they can be. And like horror is just such a cool genre because it's so broad, like it's Reanimator and Gremlins are the same genre of movie, like it's you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And just I don't have anybody to talk about this stuff with, nobody
really.
I like some weird stuff,
You do. That's true. But I mean, like that's the thing about horror. Like you were saying, it's like you've got Gremlins and Reanimator. You get the same with the horror fans, the people.
Yeah.
I know that when we went to like Chicago Horror Con, has it been 2 years now? Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Jeez, man. That's the one con I miss. We're broadcasting out of the Chicago area for people that don't, or who give a shit. I don't even know. And I should say right off the bat, it's a horror podcast, so this is not for kids. So if you're like sitting around the campfire with the kids, I don't know why you're doing that, but at the same time, I was exposed to horror at a very young age. But
yeah, definitely going to be touching on some, especially but I mean. No, one of my favorite. I don't know if you even call it a horror movie, but like Frankenhooker is one of my favorite movies, and I don't think we could really discuss something like that.
Yeah, I need to see that. I know you told me about.
There's just a lot to unpack there. I mean, it's we'll get there.
Yeah, is that a Wolfman, like a lamp behind you?
Yeah, my grandmother actually. I don't know what was going on in the 70s, but yeah, she painted this, I guess. I don't know if it was like a place you go to. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's got to be it's at least 40 years old.
Really?
But yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lamp. It works. It's like the one thing I have from my grandmother.
From your grandmother. That's a cool.
This was in her house forever.
That's awesome. Yeah. We're recording this podcast on Zoom, so it's only going to be available for audio, at least right now. And I don't know, maybe that'll change in the future, but I'm looking at, there's a lamp behind Kevin, and it's a Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman lamp that his grandma painted. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's like basically a sculpture.
Yeah.
With a lamp coming out of his head.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Which before we get more into that, I said earlier that we were going to be talking about bad horror movies. That's not necessarily true. What we've done here, and what was Kevin's idea, excuse me, is we decided to go through the alphabet, and we start with A, pick a movie that starts with A, watch it, talk about it. And we aren't allowed to use the letter A, like a pineapple in the sun or whatever, or an, like,
or the,
or stuff like that, whatever those kinds of words are. And yeah, so we're going like that. So if we get to a letter and we're having trouble finding a movie, we might put that out to the listeners as for suggestions. That would be a cool interaction thing.
Yeah. I mean, and suggestions anyway, you know, I mean,
right. Yeah,
I'm sure,
absolutely.
you know, because I'd like to do ones that I haven't seen, you know, and I've got there's a lot of stuff. That's another great thing about horror is it's it's
So
like
many.
Bob Dylan, you know, it's just endless, you know, like I had never even heard of Chud before I met you. And you're like, and that one's for you. It's like, what, how you never heard of Chud?
Yeah. That's because when I was a kid, it was creatures for me. It was creatures. The slashers were close behind, but it was mostly creatures, it reminds me, I wanted to say, like I said, I said, I made the joke, we were going to talk about bad, horrible horror movies. But that's also not true, because a lot of these movies are great, and we're going to be talking about those as well. It's just whatever the letter that we hit, and who knows if we'll even stick to that format, but that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
So for the first movie that we're going to talk about, we chose, you want to tell them? Go for it.
We chose An American Werewolf in Paris.
That was all that I've been waiting for that moment this whole time, this whole just prepping for this podcast. I'm just like, people are gonna be like, are you kidding me? I love that we chose that. Well, I love it.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, before we finish what you're gonna say.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Before we get into that, why don't we tell the listeners a little bit about ourselves? Okay. Kevin, I'm going to interview you for a second.
Okay.
So why are you here with me? What is it about horror, and when did you get into it? What hooked you?
I got into it, you know, I used to ride my bike to the video store as a kid. Actually, one of the big ones that got me into
talking VHS.
Yeah, VHS was, I used to ride my bike to the VHS, to the, you know, and that was, it was such a neat thing, you know, especially like the covers of the boxes, a lot of them, that was like, you know, I hadn't heard of a lot of them, and that was like what sold you when you got it home. And it was all, there's just so much, even movies that are like garbage. Sometimes it's, you know, there's so much there to appreciate, you know, like, but one of the big things, like, and that's why it's funny we're doing this movie first. One of the big movies that got me into horror was American Werewolf in London. I don't know when I saw it. I must have been 10, 11 years old. My dad used to, and my grandmother, but my dad did too. My dad had a much smaller collection, but people used to do this in the 80s, where they would just record. They would have blank VHSs and record movies off of HBO, and they'd have like 3 movies per, you know, and they'd have numbers. And my dad had An American Werewolf in London recorded, and it just sounded cool. And I threw it on, man, and holy shit, was it awesome, man. It was just,
it's crazy. It's bonkers.
I mean, I rewatched it in preparation of this, and it just holds up.
So you did watch both.
It's so good. And it just, it was that among other movies, it was really fun to like test yourself as a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the first time I saw Jason Goes to Hell was at a sleepover, and it scared, I was afraid to watch it because I was afraid I was going to embarrass myself. So it was almost like an endurance test. You know what I mean? Like, I hear this one's really scary. And you know, it's just such a neat, you know, that's where, you know, yeah, you know, and it could, and yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll get into it, but
that's awesome. That's awesome. Towards the end there, you started to give me the feeling of like when we went to the Chicago Horror Con together, right when we walked in, I had this feeling of like, yeah, these are my people. Like,
yeah.
And I usually go to C2E2, you know, comic book conventions, and I love those, but something about it, and we've only been to that once, something about the horror community. I think it's because it can be such a taboo sort of culture that everybody is accepting of everybody, no matter where you fall in that horror spectrum, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that because of, and that's the vibe comic convention gave me as a kid, and now horror convention, because there's something to like, with horror, people who really appreciate horror, they're appreciating something that's very easy to dismiss. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, people have, a lot of people, I've had people ask when I try to reanimate, which I'm going to refer to a lot. But
that's your favorite.
It's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
But it's people just, that's the movie where the head goes down, the severed head goes down on that lady. And it's it's so much, but like, it's when you can really appreciate something like that and how good it is, it's like, it's a certain kind of person,
Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool, man. The VHS store, the mom and pop VHS store. That's and you and I are similar in age. Are you 40 yet?
I am 37. I'll be 38 in September.
So I'm 44. So I've got you by a few, but we both still fall in a place where we remember those mom and pop stores. Hey, and just so everybody knows, I've got a 12-week-old puppy in my lap that I'm gonna have to throw across the room here. So if you hear a little bark, that's what's going on. I remember vividly 1984, I believe. For those of you who are in the Chicago area, you'll know Svengoolie, and I'll be referencing Svengoolie a lot. He's a horror host similar to Elvira. He's been doing it for 40 plus years, and it's a family, kid-friendly show. It was local to Chicago, but within the last 10 years, they've gone national. So if you want to watch him, he's on MeTV. Svengoolie, if you're listening, let's work out a sponsorship. But I remember 1984 in St. Charles, Illinois. we had a black and white TV on top of the fridge and a creepy ass like basement where we did laundry. And for some reason I was down there. I came up the steps into the kitchen, and on the black and white TV above the fridge was Svengoolie was playing. This was like a Saturday, back when he was on TV on Saturday afternoons. Now it's Saturday nights. And he was showing Romero's black and white Night of the Living Dead. And I just remember coming up, and I'm sure my mom had it on by accident, like whatever was playing before Svengoolie, it kept going. Because there's no way she would have been like, hey, family, let's turn this on Saturday afternoon. And I was just like terrified and at the same time just glued. And whatever I was doing, I stopped and I watched as much of it as I could. I didn't see the whole thing, but I ended up watching the whole thing later on, and a couple of years later or whenever it was. But I was just a kid at the time, but it was such a great introduction because you had the yin of Svengoolie, this family character, he's a really good guy, showing this terrifying yang of a movie. And the two of them just went together so well and presented it to me, young me, in such a, hospitable way that my brain and my emotions welcomed it in like fully. And I've been hooked ever since. And I'm a huge, zombies are my number one as far as like subgenres go within horror. I would say like werewolves are like right in there, but they don't make a lot of really good werewolf movies, although there are many that are good. And ironically, one of them is not what we're going to talk about today. So that's where we are. And again, like somebody out there, and hope maybe somebody listening, their favorite movie is American Werewolf in Paris. And to that person or people, good on you. Like, I'm glad.
There's no way. I mean,
there's somebody, man, I guarantee. And I want to hear from you. If you're listening and your favorite movie is American Werewolf in Paris and you think we're assholes for dogging on it, please let us know.
I would love to talk to someone that really it's genuinely their favorite movie.
I would love
that would be fascinating.
Oh my God. Whenever we do the follow-up, we'll have that person on to interview them. That's what we'll do. All right, man. Well, there's plenty to talk about that we'll get to as far as you and I go personally. Should we just get into the movie?
Yeah.
Right. So this is we looked at a list. Oh, I got to get rid of this. Hey, you go over there. Good boy. We looked at a list of like the letter A movies, and I'm sure it wasn't a complete list. There's no way it was, because right there was like a
I mean,
dozen movies on
there were. I looked at one. They probably had 20. I'm sure there's hundreds of them. Yeah, and it had all the classics. It had Alien, and and a lot of them. Yeah, a lot of them was. I mean, what else can you say about Alien? I mean, it's awesome. It's perfect.
Right.
And you could even say that about the first American Werewolf, although I don't feel like I could give that movie praise, all day.
Right.
And yeah, Abbott and Costello, stuff like that. But
Amityville.
we went with this one because I think it was why don't we do American Werewolf in London? It was like, what about Paris? Because you had said you hadn't seen it since it was new.
Right.
And I said, oh, you know what? It's not okay. I have to completely retract okay. I saw it in theaters opening weekend because I was pumped.
Right.
I loved American Werewolf in London.
Right.
And I was so fired up. And when I saw it, I was disappointed, but not in, and it came out, I was 13, 14. And my biggest disappointment was that they, in the original, it's basically like the conflict is you're a werewolf, you have to kill yourself the whole movie.
Sure.
And I was pissed that they gave him the cop out that he could eat the heart of another werewolf and become human again. And that was my biggest criticism of it at the time.
Yeah.
And I think I threw it on, like I must have threw it on in the background or something a couple of years ago, but it makes sense that this movie feels like a 13-year-old wrote it. Like that must be why I was like, yeah, of course. Like it was, I couldn't believe how bad it was when I watched it.
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I knew that it was. I remember I've seen like parts of it since it came out. I remember seeing the preview and the scene where he jumps out of like the water fountain at the girl in the graveyard.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking like, oh shit, that looks awesome.
Yeah.
Similar to like, Phantom Menace, like with Star Wars,
Yeah, with
like,
the dual lightsaber, like, holy
this looks
shit,
great.
It's great.
And then we see what the movie is. I took notes, and I think you did too, right?
Oh yeah, I took a lot of notes.
My first note, so this is 1997 when this came out. My first note is quote unquote sex points, which for me set the tone of the movie. They're on the train, these three buddies. So what? They're like traveling Paris, the three Americans doing their stupid
they're on a Daredevil tour.
Yeah,
that
Daredevil
they're all
tour.
Wearing t-shirts, like they're seemingly self-made t-shirts.
And they're all on this train, and they're talking, and there's like a buff dude. There's always a buff dude. There's like the regular dude, and then there's the nerd dude.
He's the Slater of the group.
Yeah. And he's talking about sex points that they're all gonna get when they hook up with these chicks. And I'm just like, man, because like when you look at David and what was the other guy's name in London? David and Jack, and they're doing Americans backpacking as well, similar thing, but they're talking about it as well. I remember they have a conversation about chicks and like but it's not like the focus of their trip.
It's real. They're talking about a girl they went to high school with.
Yeah.
That's like, oh man, I'm gonna get like, and they're debating about whether it's, I mean, it's a real conversation that one might have. This
is more like, hey kids, let's play a game. And I was just like, man, come on. Not to and then it's coming out of the dude who the muscle man, he played I was like, man, I've seen him before. He played this like slacker delivery guy in Frasier like a few years before. And I was just like, man, I totally like nailed him. But yeah, it's just the opening of the movie just felt so like, I don't know, just,
I mean,
hostile or like generic, but
so
just generic,
like,
I guess
90s, like, how do you even put it? Like, just the sex points and the Everything about that opening scene is just embarrassing for everybody. It's just like, it's cringy to watch. The dialogue is awful. Like the fact that anybody actually might talk like that, like the way these guys are talking,
right?
It's just
And they're all they're all like recognizable actors. You know, like I think the muscle guy was the least, and then the like regular dude, I'd seen him, and then the nerd guy is whatever his name is, the Tom Hanks lookalike, Thomas Everett Scott Everett Thomas,
I had
something like
that. He was one of the things that I was excited about when I saw it as a kid, because I loved Dead Man on Campus, which I won't watch now because I'm afraid it won't hold up. I loved I just liked that actor a lot. He was in, I think, That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
I really like Tom Everett Scott for some reason.
They were touting him as like the next Tom Hanks because he looked alike a little bit. And I was like, I remember seeing like probably That Thing You Do. And I'm like, what? Just cause what? No. You know, it's like he's flat.
And this movie it doesn't do him any favors. I'll tell you that, man. Can we let's go past the train.
Go for it.
Here's the other thing. It's not just bad. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like I watched it. I probably watched the whole movie twice because like I made notes, and then just to make sure my notes made, I went back and like was fast forwarding the parts. And I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like multiple parts in the movie are just like, wait, how did that happen? It's like, if you were to like explain the events of this movie, people would think you were just skipping giant chunks of the movie.
Tell me an event that you think doesn't make sense.
Okay, here's a small
earlier on. If it's earlier on. Okay.
One thing, and this isn't something that doesn't necessarily make sense, but it doesn't. But it's like, if you're just not paying attention. Okay, for one, the movie starts. They break into the Eiffel Tower, and you don't know why they're there. They get to the top, and they all have these huge backpacks, and they're going to bungee jump off the top of the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
Okay.
And the Eiffel, I know what you're going.
Okay. First of all, bungee jump. This is what a 13-year-old thinks bungee jumping is. You just tie a rope to like a fence and jump off. Like, it's just, okay, whatever. And before the next thing that happens, which is, it puts the rest of the movie into play. The main character starts strapping up to like do it, and the other guys start telling him like, "Hey man, you don't have to do this." And he's like, "I'm going to do it." It's like, dude, you don't have to. It's like,
why'd you even come?
Why are you here? You guys all have this. This is the whole reason you're up there. Did you climb the tower for no? What are we doing?
Why else are you going to be in the tower? Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There are a lot of moments in the movie that are like that, where it's like, but wait, if you don't do this, then why did you make a movie? Like, why are you in this scene?
Oh yeah. There's a scene coming up that makes it's crazy that like, I can't believe, like, how did this get past like a script supervisor? It's just insane. But
all right,
before
you get there, so with the scene you're talking about, Julie Delpy, I remember like her. I remember seeing this movie with a friend who was just crazy about her, and I was like, "Why?" I hadn't seen her in anything before, and like the way, dude's about to jump, his buddies are like, "No, you don't have to do this." Well, why are you here then? And then she kind of like usurps their goal and is about to throw herself off to kill herself, because we find out later she's a werewolf, and she jumps, and then Everett Scott jumps after her he instantly like falls in love with her, and he jumps after her, and in a moment that will go. I don't know why nobody talks about this, but like every single Spider-Man movie that's ever been made owes every cent that it's ever made to this scene, because it's like, it's straight up Spider-Man.
It's Spider-Man, yeah. It's
but in the worst way. It's like Spider-Man if his like underwear was like 2 months old and brown, and then like
it's okay. So she jumps off and he dives off after. He hasn't tied his rope off
I forgot about that. Yeah,
at that point. So his friends, which is insane how stupid that is.
They're
and
like
we'll get back to that.
It
comes back. Yeah. He dives after she jumps off. He dives after, grabs her. They get close to the ground. He drops her, saving her, and then shoots back up.
In like the opposite way of like a Gwen Stacy death scene. Instead of snapping her neck, he actually lays her down like Spider-Man wanted to do.
Yeah. And okay, this is so first, he doesn't tie off. His friends just catch the rope and they're just holding it.
Right. Like, there's a lot of physics. There's a lot of physics that.
Well, there's a lot of like. There's
wrong.
a scene in. So there's a scene in The Dark Knight. Dark Knight, you don't notice because it's a good movie, and like, but there's the scene where the Joker goes up in the.
Oh right.
That building. He throws Maggie Gyllenhaal off the building. Batman goes down, catches her, and then the next scene happens and whatever. But like, it's a good movie, so you don't notice. But you know, also what happened then? Like, is the Joker still up there? This movie, that's every scene is like that. It's crazy. Because now that's the other thing. So he bungee jumps, hits his head on the way up. Okay, which immediately I'm like, okay, this is a cartoon. Like, this is not.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about that. It's like, well, you're like waiting for that like sound effect. That's like boing.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
This is okay. So this puts in a sequence. This is where a sequence of events starts.
It sets the tone.
Yeah. But like the sequence of events that happens after this is crazy that this was like allowed to like. Okay, so he wakes up in the hospital with like a cartoon bandage like on his head.
Totally.
And immediately is like, we have to find that girl. And they're like, oh, his two friends are like, what girl? He's like, oh, the girl that jumped off. He's like, that's his number one priority, not, whatever. So he's just like, that's the other thing. How creepy are these guys? Like, they are like, we're fine. Like, all they want to do is track down this girl. And it's like, okay, whatever. They find this girl. So, and he's got her shoe, which
he pulls out of. Doesn't he like pull it out of his?
Yeah, he pulls it out of like his hospital gown,
dimensional pocket. Like,
yeah. So he says to him, "We have to find the girl." And they're like, "All right, man, just chill out. We'll wait till you're out of the hospital." Then this is the logic. This is the part that doesn't make any sense. He goes, "Hey, she had a note. It was probably a suicide note. Go find the note."
And it's probably got her name and address in it.
Right. And I'm watching, I'm like, okay, what? So I went back and rewound it the second time. And when there is a note that like falls out of her coat when she runs away on his way back up. But the fact that he saw like a piece of paper.
Yeah, it could have been a receipt.
A suicide note.
It could have been a receipt for like
it could have been. Or it doesn't even make sense why. Yeah. So
orange juice.
Then he says, "Oh, and yeah." So
cheese.
He says, "Go find her." They do and then she's in the hospital. He chases her out. He gets hit with a door, and then they just like, "Oh no, that's the next scene," because he says, "Go find her. Like, go find this suicide note that blew away, like."
Blew out all over Paris. And like,
it's a montage while Smash Mouth plays,
right?
Of these two guys looking at random pieces of paper. Like, people are like reading like a piece of paper. Someone's like reading a book and they're trying to. It's crazy.
Dude, I wrote down one of my very next note that I wrote down after sex points and Frasier Lackey is music. The music in this movie is so bad. And Smash
Yeah.
Mouth, I I wish them the best in their career. I hope they do well. But I hate Smash Mouth. Anytime they play, it's like a sign, it's like an omen of the end of the world for this movie, you know? I'm just like, man, come on.
So yeah, there's that, and it's insane. They're literally sitting in the street, like looking at. That's how that scene ends too. They're looking at just pieces of paper that they found, and it's like
somebody drops some change and they fight over it.
How would that even work? Like, how would anyone even think like, oh, I'll go find and yeah, it's got her name in it because then they just show the next scene, like he's in the hospital. There's this other goofy thing, but like they just show him, hey, look, and he looks like, oh, great. Now it's okay. Let's say it's a suicide note. Because they just go to her house then.
Right.
That's the thing. They just go to her house.
They just knock on her door, and she lives in this castle that's covered in vines.
Wait. Here's
it has like a Frankenstein door.
So let's say the suicide note does have her first name, her last name, and her address on it. Or I'll even say, okay, maybe it just had her first name and her last name, which is goofy, and they looked her up and whatever. Okay.
It had to have at least had her first and last name. It had to, in order for them to look her up.
Here's the other thing about the suicide note that makes no sense. First of all, like, how would you? Okay, it apparently the suicide note doesn't mention that she's a werewolf, like which you would think. And then who is she leaving the suicide note to? She's got a father that doesn't have any legs that lives in her house that's also a werewolf. Why would she bring it with her? Like,
I guess so that, like, yeah, it would be a really, really awesome piece of movie paraphernalia, that note. Like, we saw a bunch of really cool stuff at the horror con. That note needs to be in some kind of a museum, like the note that Julie Delpy
there's no note. It's literally a piece of blank paper because this movie's so lazy. There's no way anybody actually wrote a note.
Somebody, yeah. That scene though, when they find her, and I'm like, man, you guys, and you mentioned it, like how creepy they are. They never stop being the creepiest people in this movie, even though not all of them make it through the end. But like, man, to show up like that and then to demand
you go to dinner with me,
from someone, which leads to the creepiest date and weirdest date ever. Like where like his buddies like set him up with sunglasses and the hat to meet, and like she's finally like, fine, I'll go with you tomorrow, 4:00, blah blah blah. Whatever.
She's clearly being like, just fuck off, just you know what I mean?
She's like she's like covered in blood, isn't she?
Yeah, and they're like, and she's saying she's just saying that to get him to go away, and that's what I don't get. Why does she show up to the date?
And doesn't she say? I don't know why she does.
She shows up,
but see, that's the thing with this movie. You can't really ask why. You can't ask why. But she shows up. He's covered in like sunglasses, hat, because that's what his friend said was cool. And then she's on her bike and she's like, oh, I didn't recognize you because you're covered in cool clothes. And you were too cool looking for me to stop and talk to you, but it is you, and let's go on our date. And then they go on this date, and it's like, it's just like
it's insane.
It's the condom thing where like he like a bunch of condoms fall out of his pocket, and he's like, that's
his friends had slipped him some condoms.
Oh, and his friends are like following him throughout the date.
Yeah,
like,
the friends are in the restaurant, like watching the whole time, like and they're in. Like they're like 3 feet away. They're not even like on the other side of the restaurant.
Exactly.
They're clearly.
And they're passing by the table, like dropping condoms off and stuff like that and stuff.
Yeah, they're dropping condoms table
into
or like
his pocket, whatever.
So he grabbed. Yeah, they throw a condom on, and he grabs it right away. And she goes, "What is that?" and he says, "Oh, it's chewing gum,"
Right.
and like she tells him to put it in his mouth and blow a bubble because that's how
that was in my
people in
notes.
France.
That was in my notes. It says I want you to blow a big bubble for me. Quote. That's just he says to him, and she's referring because she knows that they're real condoms and not gum, and so he chews on a condom, opens it up, chews on the condom, and blows a condom bubble, and then it pops. Now this is my question for you. He blows the bubble and then it shoots out of his mouth, this condom, and it flies through the air and lands in a muscle man's soup.
Yeah.
Is that floating condom CGI?
I think it's gotta be. I thought the same thing. Only because it lands in the soup.
That was superior CGI. That was excellent CGI. I'm talking like Peter Jackson Gollum, like Andy Serkis style CGI. I couldn't tell if that was a real floating condom deflating through the air or if it was fake.
I agreed. I thought the same thing. Like that's it.
Kudos to this movie.
It could be an Alien Resurrection type thing, like where she actually made the basket from without looking. Like maybe. Did she?
Yeah, I remember that. She practiced it like a lot or something.
Yeah, she actually made that shot. That's why, and you can see Ron Perlman in that scene almost loses it. Like they had to cut it early because Ron Perlman like is about to flip out.
It's so awesome.
But like
so condom,
maybe he made that without but that's
there's no way.
It lands in muscle. No, because the muscle so it lands in that guy's soup. And then the next thing is that guy tries to kick his ass.
Yeah, and for people who haven't seen the movie, first of all, you should. And second of all, the muscle man we're talking about is like this jacked Frenchman he's bald, but he has a ponytail. And I never thought I would actually see one of those guys in real life. And I forgot that he was in this movie. So this scene is probably the best scene in the whole movie. For the CGI and the muscle man. So he eats his soup and he chews on the condom that had before this been chewed on by Everett Scott. So they're both chewing on the same condom. It's gross. It's the weirdest date ever. And then the muscle man comes up and tries to beat him up, and Julie Delpy like kicks his ass. And then they escape.
Yeah, they run out, and she rides her bike away, and he chases her like down the street, and she just says, "I have to leave. I have to leave."
I think I fell asleep at this part.
He's like, she's like, I shouldn't have come. That's the other thing. Is like, this date ends, and seemingly the whole date ends with her being like, I shouldn't be here. I'm going to leave. This isn't a good idea. And they have no chemistry. So like, it doesn't,
right.
And then, then I think they kiss.
Well,
and then she gets on her bike and leaves.
I have written here, and I don't know what this means. Maybe you can explain it. I have it written here, glob, ? Who is glob? Question. Does that mean anything?
I don't know what that means. No,
I don't know what that means. It's right after my note of I want you to blow a big I want you to blow a big bubble for me.
Could be Claude, maybe
I
the villain of the movie.
I thought someone said glob. I don't know. All right. Anyway, moving on. So this leads to at some point next.
Wait. By the way, that's the other thing. So that scene ends. She's like, "I'm sorry, I can't do it." Like they don't. She goes, "I'm sorry, I can't. I have to leave. I like you, but I have to go." And he goes, "You have a funny way of showing it." Cut to, it's nighttime. They're showing up at her house again.
Oh, right.
Like, yeah, it's a hard cut to like, she said she doesn't want to be bothered, but we're going to come back to her house. Dude, and we tracked her down.
Creepiest dudes ever, I'm telling you. Isn't this where Glob answers the door?
Yeah.
And hands them an invite to the Blade Rave, right?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. That's exactly what I thought with the Blade Rave.
Oh,
which is it's so weird that like.
Which happened the following year. 1998, Blade.
Really?
Yeah. So Blade saw this movie, and Blade was like, first of all, we need to put Dracula's in our movie, and second of all, we need to do this scene, but do it like in a good way, like
I
100%
mean, it's
better.
not. It's funny. Right around that time, I mean, Dust Till Dawn has the same idea.
Which
Is
was
that
which was the year before this movie.
yeah?
This movie is surrounded by perfection, which is why, you know, like
Yeah.
96 was Dust Till Dawn and 98 was Blade.
I mean, it's not. It's not a crazy idea that like if you were a vampire, it makes more sense for. I mean, I don't know how werewolves work, but like,
What do you mean? I'll tell you how they
like
work.
if you well, you to me like if you're a werewolf, it's more of like a like you black out.
Sure.
Like you're a werewolf, you don't know what you did. You
Yeah.
wake up, you know. Whereas like a vampire, you're just. I mean, it's
Yeah.
you're conscious the whole time.
Sometimes
You know?
if you're a Dracula, you get like sucked into that thirst, but you still know who you are and what you're doing. And to an it's like when
Right.
Wolverine sees red, it goes whatever it is, berserkers,
Yeah.
or zonkers. But yeah, when you're like London does it perfectly. When David just wakes up in the zoo and he's like,
What the
why?
fuck?
Where's
Yeah.
my condoms and stuff like, and like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think.
I mean, that one, it's so funny that they got so much. They took all the wrong things from that movie. Like the
Right.
cool thing about that movie is he's a every like, oh, like the. I mean, the transformation scene is like, I mean that it's still it holds up. It's great. I watched it today. Oh, that's I don't
I
know.
have a no. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
no. Oh, I don't want you to forget that. Oh, go ahead. Oh,
One thing is I don't know if anybody's seen it or if you've seen it. There's a documentary called Beware the Moon.
okay.
It's on the full moon edition of the DVD. It's on the Blu-ray. It's a full-length documentary
Of London.
of London, and
Okay.
it's awesome.
I'd
It's
love to see
really
that.
good. They spend a huge. I mean, they get everybody. They get. I mean, the people that they interview in this movie are just.
Cool.
It's great, and they spend a big chunk of it on how they did everything with the transformation scene, and it's fascinating.
To be fair, now, like you said, I would say they didn't take anything from, not good or bad, from London at all. This movie, the design of the werewolves in this movie is like, what is this shiny monkey shine? It's monkey shine.
It looks like
It looks
they look
insane.
like shit.
That werewolf in London is just like, it's great because it was so different from what we had seen previously.
Well, I love the idea that
go.
like everything in it is like if a werewolf if this were legit, if this were to really happen, this is how it would go. Because like that's insane. Watching that as a little kid, watching his like when you hear his bones break, like you know when he like you hear his spine like breaking as he's like changing. It's crazy.
Yeah,
like that scene is like that's what it would be like if you did like if your body was actually making that transformation, instead of, I mean, I mean, I could do a whole podcast just on that scene.
Yeah.
But like, and everything in that movie is just how it would really go. This is like, it's a cash grab. It's just the title.
Yeah. It is just title. And that's a shame that of all movies to do that too. But to be fair, and we'll talk about it more at the end, but there's a scene at the end with a transformation that in all sincerity, it's really cool. There's a really cool scene at the end. The problem with this movie is there's a lot of problems with this movie, but the problem with the transformation and the effects, it's like when they start to change, what they do with their faces for me was really cool. But then the next phase of the change starts getting too 90s CGI and it fails.
Yeah.
It ends up failing. But there's a scene at the end where they really nailed it. And we'll talk about it later, but I have, we mentioned the Blade rave. Is that after? So like I have legless WW and parkour master. Muscle Man. When is it the Muscle Man gets like locked up or something, and then he ends up stripping all of his clothes? He takes off all of his clothes, and I'm like, as I'm watching the scene, so somehow somehow, oh, they show up at the rave and she's not there. And so,
This okay.
so
Yeah,
muscle man goes, he's like, you guys stay here. I'll go back to her house for a third time. Right.
Wait. Hang on a second. It's even better than that. So what happened is Claude says, yeah, she's not here.
Who?
And they go, okay. When they go to,
Glob.
Claude, Glob says, yeah, she's not here. And they go, okay. And they go to leave. And he goes, hey, why don't you come to my Blade rave? And he gives them flyers.
Right.
And they're like, yeah, not interested. And he goes, she's going to be there. And Seraphim is her name, which Jesus Christ, like
it's like angel, right? Seraphim is an angel. So
I guess so. But like, yeah, what a ridiculous thing they have to keep saying. But anyway,
ridiculous.
So yeah.
Because she's ugly.
They go,
as hell
okay,
when she
she'll
turns
be
into
there.
A dog.
This part I had to rewind. I don't know if this was supposed to be a joke or if the guy just read it as it is in the script or what. So they go to the rave, they're walking around, they don't see her.
Right.
And he goes, Muscle Man says, hey man, why don't you stay here? I'll go back and look for her back at the house
for a third time.
Yeah. And Tom Everett Scott says, really? And he like straight face goes, yes. And I'm like, wait, is that supposed to be a joke? Because the Raven, but like it's the most autonomous robot. Yes.
AC Slater says that.
Yes. Yeah. He says that.
Awesome.
And then he goes and knocks on the door of the house they were just at.
Right.
And then when no one answers the door,
he breaks into the house.
He breaks into the house.
First he what's it called? What's it called when you peeping Tom on someone's house?
You start looking in the windows.
Voyeur or something like that.
Yeah.
So he starts looking. It's like, dude, nobody's home. What are you doing? but then he goes and he sees a light and he's like, I'm gonna get even. I'm gonna level up. He sees like
the basement light is on.
I'm gonna level up and I'm gonna not only first I'm gonna look and see who's naked in there, but then also I'm gonna take the grate off of this thing. The grate is there to keep people out. He's gonna remove the grate on a house that he just knocked on and no one answered, and he's gonna climb into this crevice and crease and get in there and look even more. Continue. I'm listening.
Yeah. So then when he peeks his head in, he sees Julie Delpy, Seraphim, she's in a cage.
Blowing bubbles with condoms. It's insane.
she's in the cage. And which I've always, I've always thought about that with I think in werewolf movies, it's not a crazy thing to do. Like they didn't Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where it's like, I know I'm gonna turn into a werewolf, I'm gonna sleep in this cage so that I can't get out. Like that's what a person would do.
Fair enough.
But again, this is where logic just goes right out the window. He's like, what are you doing in this cage? And she's like, dude, get out of here.
Right. I'm in a cage. She's in a cage, man. And she's saying she wants to be in the cage.
She's like, I locked myself in here. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. He opens the cage and he says, I think he tells her that they were at the rave. She goes, hey, where's Andy? Andy is the Tom Everett guy. Where's Andy? He's back at the rave looking for you. And she goes, oh my gosh, let me out of here right now. So she lets him out and for no reason, she knocks him out and locks him in the cage.
Right.
And then goes to this rave. Why wouldn't she say, okay, go back to the rave and get him, get him out of there. There's a guy there that's going to murder. He's in danger. Go get him.
Glob is going to murder him.
There's no reason for her to knock him out and lock him in the cage.
Right.
But there's also no reason for her to get out of the cage.
Right. Which leads to the most mind-bending scene next to the condom bubble scene, which is like all of a sudden you see AC Slater, like he just starts stripping his clothes off. And I'm like, why is this actor and why are these producers so eager? Like, what movie do they have this guy lined up for coming up next where they need to sell him as as a hunk, you know?
Yeah.
And he starts taking off all his clothes down to his boxers. I think he leaves his boots and boxers on, which is a really cool look. I've always wanted to try to pull that off, boots and boxers. But like, he ties all of his clothes together in like a Rapunzel rope and throws them out as far as he can. And then he does take his boot off.
He does take his boot off and knocks the key off onto his clothes.
Which is genius.
I thought the same thing. I was watching, like when he started stripping, I was like, I had the same thought, like, why do they keep showing how buff this guy is? This is ridiculous. And then like when he did the clothes thing, like when he tried to, I was like, that's actually pretty smart. And
and I actually learned something. I don't want to just complain about this movie. I'm trying to say a good thing. And I actually learned from a thing from this movie. And it's like when there's keys hanging on a wall that you need to get, you want to knock and you can't reach them. You take your clothes off, as almost like a slip and slide kind of idea for the key. And then you throw something at the key to knock it down. And then as it falls onto your slip and slide clothes, you drag it towards you. Genius. Like
there's a lot of movies where someone is stuck in a cell and they have to get a key. And I think this is one of the best solution, like no joke, best solution.
Absolutely.
Like in The Mask, he has to train his dog to get the key, in the moment. I mean, I can't think of any, but this is a very common scenario in movies. And this is actually a legit one that you could do if you were,
totally.
If you were trapped in a cage and the key were within about 12 feet.
Totally. Which leads to the note that I mentioned was, and I still don't know, we still haven't unlocked who Legless WW is.
Legless Werewolf is her dad.
Oh, werewolf. That's what WW is, because I'm an idiot. Yeah. So that's the dad.
Legless Werewolf,
so
then
and parkour master.
Instead of going back to the rave where she said like he's in danger. He just starts going through his shit. Yeah.
He investigates.
Like in the basement.
Yeah. And he's getting even creepier by the second. And so he finds grandpa or dad who, do you remember this always reminds me anytime I see something like this, Waxworks, the movie.
I've never seen Waxwork.
Oh, dude.
I've heard of it. But
make sure it's on your list. There's a scene this won't make any sense. Maybe the listeners will remember, but there's a scene in there with a legless dude who's been chewed on by vampires. And this always reminds me of that. Anyway, AC Slater turns into a parkour master. And he's trying to get, dad is clawing towards him, right? He knocks the bed falls over, and he's crawling toward, which is always creepy. Anytime there's a half man crawling towards you, it's creepy in a movie.
Yeah.
That happened in Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. It happened in that old classic, the Circus Freaks or whatever, Freaks. And I'm just oh, that's bogus. But he gets his superpowers. X-Men they come to fruition in this moment. He goes through puberty in this moment. And he another genius move. He pulls the shelf down, blocking this.
Climbs up the shelf.
And then he bounces. He does this double bounce. It's bounce. It's bing, bing. It's totally parkour. And does it in this
and it's smooth, and then dives out the tiny window in one shot.
It's that parkour. It's that classic parkour move where it's you got to get. He goes bing, bing, and it's this smooth. Oh, it was so smooth, dude.
Yeah, it was. And
he's just out the window, and it's wow. When did this guy he turned into Nightcrawler or Toad from the X-Men?
I mean, he must have been somebody. I'm gonna look up that actor and see what he was doing, because he must have been hey, I can do. Because I don't think it was a stuntman. I mean, maybe, but why?
I think the one where he goes over at first when he goes over the bed or the shelf, I'm pretty sure you can see that that's him. The window one probably might have been him too, but I think it's a little less clear.
It's a weird choice. But
it just happens so fast. It's just so smooth. AC was just so smooth. Speaking of, my next note is it just says greasy. Does that mean anything to you? Greasy. Was there someone who was greasy? I don't know. I don't know what that means.
I would, if I had to guess, I think you may be referring to with werewolf vision, which is just like a blurry, orange, ugly color.
No, maybe, it wasn't werewolf vision, but I'm glad you brought that up. It was somebody, I think someone was greasy or someone was greasing something or someone else. No, maybe it's a different movie I watched later.
So at this point, we go back to the rave.
Right.
Oh, this is my favorite. I think this is my favorite scene. So you've got the other friend, and he's looking around.
Regular friend, right?
Regular friend, and he's looking around for Andy. Seraphin finds Andy and says, "We have to get out of here."
Right, trouble.
Okay, and
trouble
leads him into this like back cavern, which leads into like the sewer systems, I guess. Doesn't
she bust something like punches?
No, there's already a hole in the wall.
Oh, okay,
and she says, "Get in here," and it's
get in this hole. Get in my hole that I got for you.
I hope we got to put the audio from this scene in.
Yeah.
Because it's nuts. She goes, "Get in there." He goes, "What? Why?" And then she's like, just get in there. And she's like panicking. She's actually a really good actress. I've seen her in legit stuff, and she's a good actress.
Is she?
She's in the Before Sunset movies, and she's solid.
All
but
right.
like she's selling. She's like, "Dude, you have to get in the fucking hole right now."
Yeah.
Whatever.
Get
and
in the dark.
Like, yeah. And he's like, "But why?" And then he kisses her, and she like grows her nails get super long, and she like scratch him. He's like, "Whoa!" And he goes, "Whoa!" And then she's like, get in," and she like shoves him in this hole in the wall, and he like falls like 10 feet onto like rubble. And then she's like, "Get out of here!" And her voice is changing, her face is changing. Her voice is like,
maybe that was, that was the grease. Was the hole greasy?
I don't know. I don't think so. But what's insane is she's literally like, her face is morphing.
Yeah.
And she's her voice is like changing. She's screaming, "Get out!" And like
she's like,
but his reaction is like,
"Get in my
what?
hole." Yeah.
What? Huh?
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Yeah.
And like her
like, "Get in my greasy." And the camera pans down her body as she's changing. And I'm just like, man, this is just going too far.
We haven't seen that's nothing compared to the following scene.
Which
I thought the same thing. Like, do we have to see werewolf tits? But whatever. I guess it she changes to the werewolf. He's walking around. Oh God, this fucking movie. He's walking around the sewers.
Greasy sewers.
Yeah. And
Chud babies.
Regular friend he winds up getting just like mauled and killed by a werewolf.
Right.
And then Andy's getting chased by this werewolf. He sees another hole in the wall, like a sewer pipe, jumps in, gets bitten, and then finds his way through.
Right.
Okay, like escapes.
And we're this whole time we're thinking that werewolf that bites him is angel dust.
Yes, exactly. It's Seraph, and
right.
which is a very interesting way to do the movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Like
somebody thought about something.
If you're gonna have the cop out, like because then that's the other thing. The cop out is you can turn back human, but you have to eat the heart of the werewolf that turned you. That's interesting if it's his love interest.
Sure.
Oh, I'm gonna that's
right.
So anyway, he wakes up.
Well, but the rave happens, and
the rave happens,
the blade rave happens, and this is where I remember seeing this for the first time, thinking, this is terrifying. Like, you're in a locked room, even though the room is a little bit bigger, and all of a sudden dudes are changing into werewolves and bouncing around the walls, and like everybody's running, and like as far as monster scenarios go, I think that's one of the ones I look forward to the least, is like in real life, is like I don't want to be locked in a room and there's monsters bouncing around on the walls. Like I just don't want to do that, you know? And so we see, so these werewolves are like chasing everybody down and eating everybody, and regular friend gets killed. And what is AC Slater doing during this? I forget.
Oh, he's wait. What is he doing?
I don't know. We'll come back to him.
He just escapes. I think that's one of the many things they leave hanging, and then
right, because they end up remember, AC Slater goes back to the house for a fourth time. And
he gets kidnapped.
And where he gets kidnapped in the bushes. So we'll get to that. So whatever he's doing during the Blade Rave, it's not, somehow he escapes.
Yeah. But he does not go back to the Blade Rave.
Okay.
He just
he lingers. I think he lingers around the house once he escapes.
I think that's what.
Once he parkours, which is even creepier. You just had like this crazy supernatural parkour experience, and you don't leave the premises.
Well, and this girl just said like, "Oh, your friend's in danger."
He hides in the bushes
at this rave
until morning.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's still at night. The next time we see him, it's during the day.
Right.
And that's what the next scene. Yeah. So it's
dude,
at their.
Tom Hanks goes back to the house. How many times?
Well, no, he passes out. He wakes up at the house.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because she put him there.
All right. Fair enough.
This scene's insane too.
Right. So he wakes up and it's like, am I dreaming? Am I not? Which I don't like when movies do this kind of like, what's real? Is it a dream? Is it fake? Is it?
Yeah. You know what movie does it amazingly though? American Werewolf in London.
Absolutely.
Those dream sequences in that movie.
Sequences, man.
Holy shit.
The one where he's running through, and it's the same, almost a very similar scene, kind of.
Well, first it's the one where he killed the deer,
right?
But the Nazi like demon guys, dude. Like they kill. It might be my favorite scene in the movie where they have the whole scene where the Nazi like demon werewolf guys murder his whole family, right. And then he wakes up from their dream and the nurse is there, and he's like, "Holy shit! I just had a nightmare."
And it's like,
she was all right. And then she goes and opens the curtains, and a Nazi demon, he comes through and starts stabbing the shit out of it.
That scream that the Nazi demon does. He says like, I can't even do it. It's like, la, la, la.
It's just this like, oh my God. And then it's the best. And then David, he just wakes up and he goes, holy shit.
I love that because it's like, oh, I love that delivery, and then the cut, because it cuts right after he says,
it's a hard cut right after that, because you're thinking the same thing, like Jesus Christ.
Totally. it gives the audience the feel of what he's going through. And it does it in a way that not many movies have done. That's awesome. This movie definitely, there's never a point in this movie where I feel like I just experienced that with you, except for the I want you to blow a big bubble. I want you to blow.
We've all blow
a big bubble for me.
Yeah, we've all been on a date where you what do you do? Do you chew up the condom and blow it up? I mean,
right?
You have to. What else could you do?
Right. So AC Slater, he's lingering. Tom Hanks wakes up, has this like amazing dream of Julie Delpy. Is this the one where she's like, she pins him down, but then she turns into a werewolf, and it's like
this is how it plays out. Yeah,
this is gross.
No, yeah, it's what really creeps me out about the scene is that like someone had to think of it. Like someone had to be like, let's have the scene take place like this. Like basically he wakes up and she said this is essentially the scene where she has to tell him, hey, you're a werewolf. But she doesn't do that. She just gets on top of him and takes her shirt off
to calm him down,
and puts his hands on her boobs to calm him down.
Right. Because that's how you calm someone down.
And the rest of the scene takes place where they're trying to have the conversation about like, hey, you're a werewolf now.
And I just want to make sure for all I want the listeners to know that we are PC, man or woman, whether if you're in a situation where you need to calm someone down, man or woman, you should get on top of them and take your shirt off and place their hands on your chest. It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman. That will instantly calm someone down, just so you know.
And they'll totally listen to everything you're saying.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so she's talking to him, and then wait, how does it go? Because then
dead silence.
He wakes up. He thinks he's dreaming. I think.
Well,
and then this scene happens again.
Well, but this is where the dead mother, or is it mom?
Well, the same scene happens again, but when she takes her shirt off this time, she's a werewolf.
Right.
And he wakes up and she's still topless.
Right.
It's back to this previous part where
she's
still topless. She's on top of, and then the mother, and then you have the zombie undead mother, which
was, I don't know who that woman was, but that was the worst acting in the movie from that from the dead. And I don't know if that was intentional, where they're like, all right, you're a dead zombie mom, act dead, like give me your best dead acting. But I mean, you listen, like Jack in London was one of the best performances in that movie. As the rotting corpse. And not only was this actor who played dead mom terrible, but she was only in it for like this scene. And
they never come back to it.
Granted, we got multiple dead friends in this movie, or dead, whatever you want to call them. Ghosts,
undead characters.
Christmas past. Yeah. So I get it. That was hers. That was her visitor, or whatever you want to call it. Tom Hanks gets his two, the girl in the cemetery and then regular friend. But anyway, the zombie mom, I expected way more from that scene when I first saw this. And it was just, I remember even then when it came out and thinking it now, like, oh, get ready for the worst performance in cinematic history. Whoever this actress, she should be ashamed. I'm shaming her right now, whoever you are.
So he sees this zombie, he sees this undead person, and he jumps out the window. And that's when we see AC Slater again.
Right.
He's still at the house. We don't know what time this is or how long he's been there. And he's like, hey, and like
he's in the bushes, dude. He's
been hanging out in the bushes for hours.
And luckily this house has like those really tall, like rich people bushes that are like
we're
like larger than people. And he's like camped out. Who knows what he's doing? Like having a sandwich inside there or something. And he just pops
Why
out.
did
and
it take
like,
Claude this long to? Because then Claude kidnaps.
Who?
Claude jumps behind him and covers his mouth. Glob. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That guy.
Yeah, Glob. But like, which is like, why is he kidnapping? But that's a whole other thing. But
is Glob in the bushes too?
Yeah, he comes up.
So like, these bushes are so extravagant that you don't know. You don't know who else is in them and what they're doing. They could be having like sandwiches. There could be other people in the bushes. Turns out AC Slater and Glob are both in the same bush, and they don't know it. Jesus,
for hours.
For hours. Yeah.
So,
dude.
Okay. So then, hang on. What? Oh, okay. So.
Oh, did we already see the dead friend, regular friend?
No, that happens in the next scene.
Oh, okay.
So then he starts to like get his he starts to walk around Paris. Andy, a Tom Hanks guy.
Right.
And he gets he starts to get like his werewolf like
smell.
Yeah, like his
powers.
In the first one, it's a little subtle, his like wolf like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's like, it's pretty subtle.
Sure.
This, he goes to a fancy restaurant and orders steak.
I just realized what greasy meant. he's eating this steak And this is such a dumb fucking cliche in a movie where somebody is really fucking hungry, whether they're a werewolf or whether they're like just a hungry person, a hungry man, a lumberjack who's been working all day long chopping trees down. And they're like with their hands putting the food in their mouth. It's like, dude, I don't care how hungry you are. You can still eat like a regular person. And he's greasy as fuck, man. He's got like grease all over his mouth. I don't know why I had the word greasy so high in my notes, but like this was what it was. I'm so glad we got here. I knew it would make sense. Grease all over his mouth. It's so stupid. It's not gross. It's stupid. Anyway.
Right. So he starts so he's in this restaurant eating this steak,
greasy,
like with his hands, and it's
a fancy restaurant. He couldn't go to a burger joint or a little like stand.
Yeah.
He goes to like a fucking five-star restaurant. And he's eating Paris. Greasy steak. What is that?
So, but yeah, the other thing he does, again, first movie, his wolf-like features, they're subtle. It's like he's got all this energy and he's got, he's
balloons.
Yeah. He literally like gets up. He sees Julie Bowen from Happy Gilmore. Gilmore and Modern Family.
Modern Family. I am in love with this woman. I have so much respect for her. I have always been in love with this woman. She was in something else other than what you just mentioned. And I was like, this is the woman for me. And I forgot she was in this movie. And when I saw her, I was like, because this was probably like her first role.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Julie Bowen.
Or if anybody listening knows her, please tell her to write the podcast or to comment or however this ends up working out. Marry me. Okay. Anyway.
So he literally like just smells her. She's an American as well. And she's trying to order a drink or something and having a hard time with the translation. And he gets up and I don't know why he's like smelling the ground and like smelling, like he gets up and like smells under her skirt.
He assaults her in a way that is like, if that were to even remotely happen today, that person would be chopped into 70 pieces, put into a paper bag, lit on fire, and like shot to the moon. Like
he puts
insane.
He literally goes under. He's
crawling on the floor. He's
up
crawling,
her leg under her skirt. Yeah,
and he comes up his face into her skirt. It's insane. Yeah. I felt assaulted.
And this is where
he's so greasy in that scene.
So then this is it's a trait that they do in movies that drives me crazy. When like, so she's like, "You're American?" He's like, "Yeah." And they go out on a date because she's just like, psyched to whatever. And
that's what I'm saying. I'm right here.
It reminds me of 40-Year-Old Virgin. I like that movie. It's not as good as I thought or when it came out, but the what's that actress's name? Elizabeth Banks. Her role in that movie is ridiculous at the end, where she's so horny she can't think.
Another
one,
what I mean? That she's my dream woman, Elizabeth Banks.
But
if you're listening to this podcast, let me know.
Elizabeth Banks.
Yeah.
But yeah, same thing where like they're out to dinner and he's doing insane things and she thinks everything is hilarious because she's just so horny. Like she can't, like that's everything that she has, where he's like howling. She's like, "Oh, I like," it's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's silly, like juvenile. I never even did that kind of stuff in junior high or high school. It's just, or thought it was funny. It's like, what? Who's writing this?
Who could possibly act that? Like, anyway.
Oh yeah.
So
okay.
They go to Jim Morrison's grave.
Oh yeah. Okay. And I'm like, what? They're going to bang on Jim Morrison's grave. I would never, dude. I lived in a serious, and we'll talk about this. I'm going to say this briefly and that's it. I lived in a seriously straight up haunted apartment once. And I have,
oh, you're I think you've told me about it before.
yeah, but I can't talk about it in my house.
Okay.
So, because it's bad stuff. But anyway, after that experience, I was left with the utmost respect for the supernatural. And these guys are on Jim Morrison's grave. I would never even, it would never cross my mind that is something that I want to do in my life. Anything even remotely close. It's like, what? Who? What? I don't know. What are you doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Riders on the storm.
And even it's such a weird thing because she says, like, what do you want to do? Because they get thrown out of wherever they are because she's so horny and he's like knocking shit over, I think.
Greasy as hell.
And they go and she's like, what do you want to do now? And he like whispers something and she's like, I love Jim Morrison. Like that was his idea. Like, let's go screw on Jim Morrison's. Like, why would he say that? That's the most.
I have an idea. Did we already do we skip over the dead friend being pulled out?
No, he hasn't even appeared. Oh wait, I'm sorry. He appears on their date.
Okay, because when they pull him out of the water, or whenever he appears, the dead friend, I noticed that the dead friend is wearing a dead shirt. Did you notice?
Like a Grateful Dead shirt?
I don't know. It says dead on it. I don't know if it's a Grateful Dead shirt or not, but it says dead.
Huh.
I mean, and you can see.
I know that he had the like.
He has a flannel over it.
Yeah, he had his Daredevil tour shirt on.
Right.
Earlier in the movie.
Whatever he died in, it was a dead shirt though.
Which I read on IMDb that the actor hated that shirt so much that's why I think it was that's why he wore flannel over it, or it might have been that Slater hated it so much that's why he keeps taking it off. There's everybody, if you go on the IMDb or read any interviews about this, everybody's embarrassed of it. Like Julie Delpy's come out and be like, I did that for a paycheck. I literally, like, nobody has anything good to say about this.
That's too bad. You know, at some point in your career, you got to look back to 1997 and say, I did that movie. It's got the best CGI scene in history with the condom flying.
With the
flying condom.
Yeah.
It's got a couple other, an interesting cast of characters. I did it. To say like I did it for a paycheck, it's like, oh yeah, and every other movie you did in your career too.
Yeah.
Because any of these actors, none of them have made a movie that's really any better quality wise.
It is funny that like when you're an actor, you really don't know if it's how a movie's going to turn out. Like, I mean, What does Tom Hardy famously was a prick on Mad Max Fury Road the whole time.
Really?
Because he was like, this movie's going to be terrible. I don't know where they're going with this. None of this makes any sense to me. And he was a prick the entire.
That's too bad.
There's a panel at Comic-Con though, where he apologizes.
Really?
Like to like the whole cast and crew. And he's like, I just didn't know what was going on. I thought this movie was just going to be it didn't make any sense to me. We were shooting things. It just, what is this? And then
I could see that. George Miller has a reputation. I mean, I love every movie George Miller's ever made, but he has a reputation for just being kind of bonkers. But that's cool that he apologized.
Yeah, he seems like a stand-up dude. Okay. But yeah, so his friend shows up, which is so funny. Like, again, like comparing to the original, Jack's first line is just, he's sitting there, he's eating toast, and he goes, "Can I have a piece of toast?"
Yeah.
That's how they introduce Jack. And Jack, he's just like fucking just rip the fuck up.
Right.
And this one, they pull up they bring the serving tray and they open it up and his friend's head is there and he goes, "Hey," like,
dude,
like, why would you approach your friend that way?
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thank you. Like, what is that? Is his need to pull a gag on his friend like that intense, or is he just naturally funny, or is he like, like what? Why are you
that's
hiding
the other
under?
thing. Like all the cool, like fun things about him when he was alive, like all his energy, it's all gone.
But he was regular friend.
Yeah, regular friend. Like he was like the Michelangelo of the trio, like, but all that's gone once
you're
he's dead.
You're giving him a lot of credit. You're giving him a lot of credit. Does he, when they take the thing off and his head's there, does he then stand up through the table?
Yeah, he just stands up and like,
I hate that even more than just the head being under the tray is someone standing up through a table. I hate that.
Yeah.
It gives me the worst feeling.
So he freaks out and is like, what are you doing? I saw it. And that's another thing. He starts screaming, like, I saw him pull you out of the river. And like the joke is that it's a fish is what's being served.
Oh, yeah.
So everyone thinks they're yelling at him. And Julie Bowen thinks this is hysterical. Like drunken, like just white girl laugh. Like
right.
just, and it's like, why would that? Anyway, so they go in the bathroom and he's telling them like, hey, you got to kill yourself. Or he doesn't even say you have to kill yourself. He's just like, hey, you're a werewolf and I'm undead.
Right.
And
you have to eat a heart.
Yeah. And he says, how do I become a human again? He says, you have to eat the heart of the werewolf that bit you. And he's like, oh, that's Seraphim. He's like, yep. But he's like, I need you to kill the werewolf that bit. That's the thing. I feel like it's implied that he also killed his friend.
Which is
right?
interesting. I guess. Yeah.
But they, I mean, that's another thing. They don't bail on it, but it's, yeah, go ahead. What you're going to say?
Well, it's interesting that they use this version of this curse, because how do the werewolf juices inside of you that are infecting you and making you a werewolf know that when you rip the heart out of the one that turned you, how do those juices know then, okay, now we can turn you back, now we can leave you and you can be human again, or what? Like,
right.
Unless there's like a chemical reaction between the heart and the saliva that bit you when you eat the heart. I guess that could be the science behind it. Otherwise it's purely supernatural.
Yeah. And I would say it's just supernatural,
which I'm okay with that, because it is a supernatural
it's
thing.
A curse. It's, you know what I mean? Like it's, it's gypsy shit.
But in London, I'm being bitten. It's crazy. As we're talking about this, my dog is chewing on my leg. I'm dead serious. He's like, so if I turn into something, hey, dog, stop. In London, he's bit by a werewolf. He turns into a werewolf. And the only way to break the curse is to kill yourself. To me, there's more science in that.
Yeah.
Because
and the whole thing is that his friend wants him to do it because everyone you've killed can't go on to the afterlife. They have to walk there. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not a great thing about the original. His friend is like, hey, don't, like when he's talking about how to kill himself, he's like, don't do it like that. If you fuck it up, it'll really hurt. Like he's still concerned with his friend.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that one's great.
I don't know.
But man,
I would have written the curse differently.
Yeah. It bugged me. And that was my biggest beef with it. With the original, with it the first when I saw it originally, was like, that's bullshit. And then, well, we'll get into that later. So his whole thing is like, I have to, whatever. So then, hang on, what happens next?
It leads to. I have a note though that I need to say. Yeah. In the bathroom when he's explaining all this stuff, that scene ends where another dude comes into the bathroom or out of a stall or something, like a regular dude. And Tom Hanks turns and you hear the zip, the pants zip up sound, and I'm like, I don't own a pair of pants, and I have never heard another pair of pants that sounds like that when you zip it up. So who in Hollywood is like, okay, this is where you would insert the pants zipper sound. Pants don't sound like that. They just don't. So I don't know what Foley artist is like, this is the sound we need for this. No, that's such a science fiction sound. I don't know what that is. Anyway.
Well, it's like the punch sound that people, you know what I mean?
Sure, no punches
that doesn't exist in nature. That is in every movie.
But at least the punch sound is cool. Like Harrison Ford's punches are like, they're like no other. They're like, when he lands a punch, man, it's like, whoa, it's like, pow. Anyway.
One thing I do remember about that scene, when I saw it in theaters. So he's talking to his dead friend and he's standing at the urinal, and then the guy, there's the guy in the bathroom with him. And he says, you can't just pop up and tell me what to do.
Oh, right.
And like, it's implied, like, it looks like he's talking to his dick.
Right.
And like, that would have been fine And but like they keep going with it. And he keeps saying more shit.
Right.
It's like, just leave, whatever. And but I remember when I saw it in theaters, that gave me a huge laugh.
Really?
Like belly laughs.
It doesn't surprise me because most people are idiots. And you know what I want? I want all of those people who laughed at that or who continue to this day laughing at that scene in particular. I want them all to watch Wolf Cop. Have you seen Wolf Cop?
I have not seen Wolf Cop.
In Wolf Cop, there is a penis werewolf transformation.
I'm sold. I'm in.
It's a similar scene. It's a similar scene where the dude's going to the bathroom and he turns into a werewolf while he's doing this. And instead of showing the dude turning into a werewolf, they show his dick turning into a werewolf dick.
Wow.
Like the camera shows it. And I'm like,
I've heard really good things about happening? Wolf Cop before this. So
it's a weird movie. Watch it. You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it.
Yeah, that's on the list for sure.
So this takes us to the graveyard, which
so then they go to Jim Morrison's grave. We're
coming up on my very, very strongly least favorite scene in this movie. Go ahead.
So they have sex on Jim Morrison's grave. She yells all the things that are clearly there for the trailer. Like, you're an animal.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, oh God. It's so anyway.
Ridiculous.
And then random cop shows up. That's
the cop.
Thing. Yeah, random cop
with a dog.
Oh yeah, the dog. Oh, that's your
yeah, dude. What the fuck?
Well, that's the other thing. Like, it's one thing, okay, he kills Julie Bowen. Right. He kills the cop.
Right.
But he eats
no.
The dog is just dead.
You know what happened to the dog?
Scene. What?
Man, I can't even say this. You don't know, like
it was not clear to me what happened to the dog.
It's not clear. It's very ambiguous. I will say that. But I'm telling you, this is what happened to the dog. And this is first of all, let me take it back a notch. I don't know a person on earth who likes to see animals just an animal killed in a movie. Sure. In a movie. Mm-hmm. There's no reason for it. You know, like it doesn't, unless it's like Cujo or serves part of the story. There was no reason.
John Wick, it's I mean, he spends 3 movies killing guys.
Total motivation. Yeah, I get it.
It's pure motivation.
But they don't they don't show it. You know, like they tell you that they killed the dog. The dog, you hear a yelp, whatever. But it serves the story. I get it. What is the movie VHS? Have you ever seen those movies, VHS?
I have not seen. They're anthology movies. Yeah, and I've heard good things.
They're good. I believe it's VHS 2. There's a scene where an alien ship or whatever sucks a bunch of people up, and one of them's a dog, and then drops them, and the dog falls, and they show the perspective from the dog as it crashes and hits the ground. And I'm like, this dog didn't need to be involved in this scenario. So anyway, in this movie, the random cop shows up with this dog, and for anybody listening, I just have a soft spot big time for animals. So when they show stuff like this, I'm like, why? Like, it's not going to serve the purpose. And the dog, you know, everybody gets killed. The next day we wake up, sun shining, and Tom Hanks is passed out on the ground, right?
Yeah.
And right next to him, naked, and right next to him is the dog. And previously in the greasy restaurant, we were shown how horny this dude is. He banged this dog to death.
That's the implication.
When they pick the dog up and the dog's like,
and he's like flat. Yeah.
Flat. He's spread out. Her legs are spread out. I'm telling you, this movie's sense of humor is that twisted that's what it's implying. And I would not say this if I really didn't think that that's what they were going for, but I think that's what they were going for. And I say shame on them for that.
Yeah.
I think it's disgusting.
Absolutely. I really do. I really think that's because they pick the dog up, and also they show the dog's face, and like its eyes are crossed and its tongue is out, like it had just been through like a real strenuous activity. And I'm like, dude, are you really, somebody wrote this, that this dog gets banged to death? Give me a break. I mean, because that's the thing. The dog isn't damaged besides being dead.
Exactly.
It's not at all. It's not. And
and he's a wolf.
I didn't even realize there was a dog in the scene.
Yeah.
Until like it's dead next to him.
I'm telling you, all you people out there who have seen this movie, think about it and rewatch that scene. And that's exactly what they're saying. And I'm saying shame for shame. I'm ringing that bell, man.
Okay.
Shame, ding, shame, all right. And also in this scene in the graveyard is when we see like the lengths that they'll go to, or the real, like, how bad the CGI is when that thing comes out, when the werewolf comes out of the water, out of the fountain. It's like, and he's hot and he boils the water. Remember, he's like so hot, he's burning up because
that's like the one thing that ties it, I think, to like the original, is that like he's so hot he takes his clothes off in the original. Like he's just like, I'm burning up, I can't, and he takes his clothes like.
And she says it when they're making out. She's like, "You're so hot, like you're really hot."
Yeah.
And he runs up, but to boil water, come on.
Yeah, I get it. And then,
jumps,
it's just so that you don't have to do the CGI transformation. That's it. It's so he's in the water, and then he gets to dive off. It's a cheap workaround.
Yeah, I get it. He could have gone around the corner though. I just don't understand how you could get like a body could get so hot to boil. What's the temperature to boil water? I don't know, like
100 something degrees,
100, 200, 300 degrees, whatever it is, 700 degrees. That's what his body got to. Come on, to boil water. Get out.
Well, and the other thing is he changes multiple times in the movie.
He doesn't boil,
and he
water.
Doesn't do that every time. Like it's so. Anyway, he jumps out. He eats Julie Bowen. He eats random detective.
He bangs the dog.
And he bangs the dog. And here's another scene that makes no fucking sense. He wakes up, they go, "You're under arrest."
Yeah.
Okay. They arrest him and they bring him not to the police station.
Right.
They bring him to the morgue to like show him the bodies of the that and who why? Okay. What murder suspect has ever been like, "Hey, here's the bodies of the people we think you killed.
Right.
Did you do it?" Like, what is that? So they bring him to the morgue. He's like, "No, this is crazy. I didn't do that." And then the cop that arrested him, who becomes like halfway through the movie, we just get this like weird Jean Reno type cop.
Jean Reno.
He is. He's.
I believe you mean to say Jean
Reno. Yeah.
But I like Jean Reno better.
The professional, Leon. So Leon the cop,
Jean Reno,
he's Jean Reno. He's he goes in the hallway to talk to his supervisor, and his supervisor is like, "Hey man, I'm tired of this shit. Arrest this. Like he's done. Like bring him downtown or arrest him some more, even though we already have him."
Arrest him some more.
I don't know. So, and they leave him in the morgue. Oh, and that's when so
arrest him some more.
Also, there's a long conversation they're having while what could they be saying? But whatever. His supervisor's like, "Let me talk to you in the hallway." They leave him by himself in the morgue.
It's Three Stooges.
Yeah.
It's those Three Stooges.
Julie Bowen wakes up and she's undead. And she's like, "Hey, asshole," whatever. And which is, I have a whole thing with this. So like, yeah, okay. So now you have two undead. She's fun, I guess. She was that fun little bit where she's trying to whistle and she pops her eyeball out of her head. Like, it's
I gave her credit for that because this is probably one of her first roles ever, and she actually,
she's good in it.
She does. And she was willing to, like, this beautiful woman get so gross and like pop her eyeball out and all this stuff. And it was awesome.
It's funny you say that because Griffin Dunn, in the Beware the Moon documentary, they talk about that when Rick Baker was doing Griffin Dunn's makeup, and when he finally saw it, he was really fucking bummed for like a few days.
Why?
Like, he was like, "What the fuck?" And then they were like, he's like, "This is supposed to be my big break, and I look like this the whole movie." Like,
that's awesome. Jesus
Christ, man. And he was really, and then they had to like Landis and And Rick Baker kind of had to have a talk with him, like, dude, you're going to make the movie. Like, this is, and then eventually he got on board with it, but he was not happy with it. He was like, I can't show this to my mom. My mom's going to freak out,
So Landis, and I know Landis was a weirdo back then, very arrogant, but like they were that confident that that Jack's character was going to like make the movie.
They were kind of that the makeup was going to sell. You want to hear something really funny?
Okay.
Landis wrote it when he was 18. And the whole reason it takes place in London is he was working on another movie when he was 18. And he found out that you get a tax credit, like to shoot in London or to shoot in Europe or in England, whatever. And that's the only reason it takes place there. Okay. And he wrote it when he was 18. And basically, the script, like he couldn't get it made until he had like Animal House and I think Kentucky Fried Movie and Blues Brothers under his belt.
Oh,
and it was and then they were like, what do you want to make? He's like, I want to make this. And it's the same script he wrote when he was 18, except there was one change that's insane, that like which is the theater that they go to. I'm getting off. Theater they go to was originally a cartoon theater, where he shows them all the other undead people.
Oh yeah.
And when they went to go scout, it was okay. We got this theater. It's a cartoon theater where they're going to go watch cartoons. And in the time between scouting, it turned into a porno theater in real life.
In real life, it did. Oh, wow.
In real life, it was a porno theater, so they changed it.
That's a very creepy Amber Alert situation right there. Like a cartoon theater changing into a porn theater. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Of all things. It's like, I could see the owner being like, hey, cartoons aren't working. We're going porn. What? Like, what are you talking about? Get out of here, Gene Reno.
But anyway, I forget where I was going with that about why he he was sure it was good. Like, Landis was sure it was like, this is awesome. And Rick Baker, when they were younger, was like, he would tell him about it when they were doing other shit. And he was like, man, I'll do that movie. And then Rick Baker got hired on The Howling. And when Landis went to make it, he was like, I'm already working on a werewolf movie. And he flipped out. And then he was like, all right. And he got off The Howling to do American Werewolf. Yeah.
So what happened? Who ended up finishing The Howling?
One of his proteges. Like, he was like, all right, I can give it to this guy who's like my apprentice, and he finished it. Rick Baker probably still has credit on The Howling,
because The Howling is one of the best, if not, in my opinion, it's right there, man, with London.
So
two totally different movies, but
here's my thing with The Howling. I didn't realize, so I always thought I didn't like The Howling, and it's because I would like make stupid, I like the Sox, so I can't like the Cubs, or like I like Marvel, so I can't like DC.
Sure.
I like whatever. It was all that shit. But like, I thought I had seen The Howling and hated it until we hung out at the comic store and The Howling was on, and I was like, what is this? This is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like the transformation, and I was like, it's The Howling, and I was like, this isn't The Howling. I had seen The Howling too. And I thought it was The Howling 1, like when I was young enough to think that,
dude, two like night and day, man. Because
I forget who it was. I think you were describing to me what happens in The Howling 2, or somebody was, and I was like, oh, that's the one I saw. So I've never seen The Howling.
The Howling 2 is the one with the gratuitous naked scene in the credits at the end, where she rips open her shirt, and it just like, they just replay it over the credits, like over and over and over.
I don't remember that.
It's.
But I mean, I saw it when I was young. I mean, I was,
Yeah.
But when I think it was you where you described the movie to me, or somebody that I was.
Dude,
oh, shit.
The Howling.
I have the Howling. I bought the Howling. Yeah. On your recommendation. I just have not watched it.
But you've seen it, right? You haven't seen it.
No,
I've
never seen the original. No.
Dude, will you watch that tonight or tomorrow or whatever? You need to see that movie. That movie is great. Anyway.
I'll throw it in.
All right. So back to her eyeball popping out and all that. Like, I think that she, for a starting actress to be like covered in makeup like that, similar to how Griffin Dunn felt, like, you're going to cover me up. Like, this is my start. I I give her credit for that, like a serious credit. Dog.
Yeah, and she's good, and she's, you know, she in a bad movie, she does a pretty good, you know.
Sure.
And also that's the makeup. They do kill it with the undead makeup. The undead makeup looks awesome.
It does look good. I'll take that.
You know.
Yeah, it looks good.
I think she's kind of unnecessary. Like, we don't need another undead.
You don't need two
running. Yeah, but but yeah. So the way this scene ends is another fucking like, what? So they're talking to each other. They're saying, "Okay, I'm undead too. I'm going to tell you all the same shit that the other guy's been telling you." And Detective Gene Reno's in the hallway talking to his boss, and his boss is like, "Hey, I'm tired of this shit. Arrest him." And the way he escapes, apparently, the police station / morgue is it's like a Naked Gun type situation where like the two cops are talking, and in the background you see him get into one of the drawers that they keep the bodies in.
Right.
And then the cops come back in and they go,
"Where'd he go?
Where'd he go?"
What idiots, man. That's what I'm talking about. It was Three Stooges.
There's one place he could be.
One place.
Like, there's one, I mean, you could look on, I mean, there's nothing in the room but these giant drawers. Body-sized drawers.
And they don't check. Dude, get out of here, man. Don't even be cops.
There's no door. There's no other door to get out besides the one they came in. Like,
don't be cops. You can't be cops anymore. Like, you just seriously, why didn't someone take away their unbelievable. And then he just, so they turn their backs, they leave, and then he like crawls out of the drawer, I'm guessing.
Well, then because they just cut the next scene. They cut and they're outside. They're just walking around. That's the thing. That scene didn't have to take place in a morgue.
Right.
That could have taken place at the police station.
Right.
And she just appears. The other guy just appeared in the previous scene that we just did. Like, it's the same scene.
And again, well, no, I guess it's not this. It must be the scene right after this. How does he end up then again back at the house without any clothes on?
Oh, okay.
Because I have here in my notes, he runs with a wad of clothes too much.
Oh yeah, I thought the same thing.
He's always got a wad of clothes that he's not wearing, and he's running with them. What was it with like? I mean, they don't play Blink-182, but that's what it feels like. They play, I know,
like punk, like early '90s ska music,
right now,
while people are like running around and getting chased.
Yeah,
it's just like, geez, like they play the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones while it's crazy.
Smash Mouth.
Yeah. So
I wish them luck. Just I hope.
Okay. So wait. Okay. This is how he does. Oh, that's what happened. No. This is how he gets back to the house. So then, Glob,
right,
shows up, just pulls up in a car and grabs him, throws him in the car.
That's right.
With like the three other werewolf guys.
And he's like in the back seat.
Yeah. And he's like, "You guys are werewolves too?" And they're like, "Yeah." And they bring him back to the house.
Right.
And they bring him to Notre Dame. They bring him to the
they make him try to kill AC Slater.
They go into the basement of of Notre Dame. And
right.
And they
AC's chained
say,
up.
"Hey, join our cult and kill your friend."
Because that's when they caught AC in the bushes where everyone lives, they took him back here and they chained him up, and they're like, "We need to know that you're with us in our club." So here's this like gigantic Conan the Barbarian sword. We all have them. And on top of it, I noticed it was bent wrong when they showed it like straight on. It was like flimsy bent, and I was like, man, you couldn't even get some like stiff cardboard. You got like the stuff that's like already has a bend in it or something. It was messed up, dude. That ruined
why would they assume, oh yeah, well, he'll join our cult and kill his friend.
Right.
Like, there's no tension to that scene. And they try and make it seem like, oh, well, I guess I got to do that. Like,
why?
Why would he kill his friend? And they just gave him a sword.
Yeah, he doesn't
Like,
even like you guys. Here, have a sword. Kill
here,
your
have a
friend.
sword and kill your friend.
It's not
And
like
he-
they
and he-
said, if they had said like you'll get $1 million, it'd be like, well, maybe I'll think about it, but like,
yeah,
or you can marry Julie Delpy, or whatever, or you can go free, or I don't know, something. It was just like,
nothing.
no, join our club,
Join our club and kill your best friend.
right, and take some
And
drugs.
so there's a bunch of like jumping around. He doesn't do it. They like
right.
they fake sword fight for a while.
And all of a sudden, he's like a master fighter now.
Yeah, he kicks
has,
like 5 guys' asses. Like
he has like fighting skills. I'm telling you, X-Men.
So then Julie Delphi just shows up and throws. What is she? She throws like fire. She throws like a fire something.
Liquid fire. It's like a Molotov cocktail.
Like a Molotov cocktail. She throws it down, grabs him, and like they can't go through that.
Okay? They can't go through fire. These werewolves with fucking Conan swords. It's like, what are you guys even good for? Ugh.
So anyway, she grabs him, and then they go back to her house. That's how they went up back to the house.
Again.
I don't know why he is naked though.
He gets naked again for some reason, and then
she's like, I think she's tending to like his wounds.
Oh yeah,
like he got stabbed in the fight or something,
and he ends up running away again with a wad of clothes. And I'm like, dude. And also, every time he does that, the first thing he puts on is his shirt. I'm like, no, man. First thing I'm putting on is my pants, because we see people every day walking around without shirts, and we're like, whatever he's doing with his shirt, I don't know. But have you ever seen someone without pants? No, because there's no fucking werewolves out there running around without pants. Put your pants on. That's all I want out of this movie, is like, put your pants on. God damn it.
So they escape these guys.
Right.
They escape these guys. And this is insane. They escape. They come back to the house again.
Yep.
They come back to the house, and they're like, and they're
looking for the
werewolf
potions.
The werewolf cult has like killed her dad,
right,
like in the basement. That was the other thing. It's revealed that like
the legless guy.
She's been
Legolas.
Yeah. Which I love. By the way, they don't address earlier in the movie when they show this legless werewolf. They don't like explain this is her dad. They're working on it's just, that's what it's a legless werewolf, and that's it.
Why did they pull his legs off?
She bit him off.
At the beginning, the opening scene. Then it's like exposition city. She's like, okay, here's the deal. I'm a werewolf. I've been me and my dad were trying to come up with a cure. We came up with with a serum, but it basically went backwards.
Yeah, it makes us a werewolf instantly. And I killed my mom and I ate my dad's legs.
Right.
And
which is the opening scene.
Yeah.
When he gets pulled under the grate.
Which they show again while she's explaining it. They do it again.
For those idiots that laughed at whatever dumbass joke that was. It's like, get out of here, you idiots. Gosh.
So then they're like, they realize like, okay, they killed her dad and they stole all of the instant werewolf serum. And they trashed the lab. They trashed all the research.
Right.
She doesn't. Yeah. Okay. So they go to the closet that had it all, and it's all gone. And they left a note. They left a flyer for their Blade Rave.
Right.
At the thing. At like
this Blade Rave 2.
Yeah, the second Blade Rave. This one says Americans only, which is like,
so weird.
What is up with that?
What is that? That's some kind of
because he flips out earlier when he's like, "Oh, you're American? Yeah. Oh, come to my rave." Like, what is that?
I thought you were gonna try to do an accent. That would have been cool. But yeah.
I thought there was gonna be some reason they like even if it was just that they don't like Americans because they're stupid. They don't even do that.
Doesn't someone say at some point that we taste better or something?
I don't know.
If
they do, I missed it.
It's that grease bullshit again. At what point does somebody get hit by a train?
Oh, yeah. Again, makes no sense.
Because I have a really good something to say about that, but okay. I can't remember the scene.
Okay, hang on. I've right here. Clock it an awful scene when
I want to see your note. I want to see what your notes look like when we're done with this.
it's one then another awful scene. Awful chase scene with yeah, another 90s music chase scene. Why? Yes. Okay, so at the next Blade Rave,
that's the one with all the drugs where they've got all these syringes in their arms.
So that one they've got all the Americans. This one's nuts.
Yeah.
So there's that doorman that the guy that locked everybody in there.
Right. With the forklift or something.
Yeah. She drops a guard after he takes the forklift and like blocks the doorway. He's sitting there and
she drops
Seraphin drops like a gargoyle on.
Right.
Which is like the most elaborate way to like unnecessary. You don't even have to kill that guy. Like
right.
Whatever.
Or she could just sneak up behind him and chop him or something.
I mean, okay, that's the least.
That's fine though. That's fine though. Gargoyles.
Yeah, yeah. Kill the guy was a piece of shit. Sure.
Right.
So then the Blade Rave's going on, and it's all these Americans, and
they're acting like idiot Americans. There might as well have been.
Yeah.
There might as well have been like a pandemic going on and they were all in there without masks. It's like, what are you guys doing, you idiots? You know?
So Andy gets up on, this is another thing that happens in movies that annoys me. He gets up on a table and says, hey, everybody, you're in danger. This is not safe. We got to get the fuck out of here. And everybody's like, fuck you. And they start throwing shit.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
and then Gene Reno is there and he arrests him. He takes his gun, right? Goes to arrest him.
And some idiot handcuffs himself to a werewolf. That's just
all
dumb.
of Gene Reno's
henchmen
cops. Yeah. That was the part I'm like, that's kind of neat. They all start handcuffing themselves because they start arresting people like crazy.
Sure.
For what? I guess it's a illegal rave. I don't know. Kind of outside your you're there to get in a murder victim and you're going to start arresting people who are having
but they're handcuffing themselves to these all the dudes who are wearing robes.
Yeah, all the cult members.
Dude, I'm not handcuffing myself to a cult person.
Well, that's the other thing. If you're at a rave and like 10 guys come out wearing robes,
right?
Like, all right, whatever. Like, so then
I'm out of there.
Glob starts making a speech.
Yeah.
About how much he loves Americans.
Americans taste very nice. You know, it's like, what?
And then they all shoot themselves up with this serum.
Yeah.
Which they made a lot of it for it not working. They made a shitload of it.
This one doesn't work. Keep making more.
So they're doing that thing. It reminds me of on the Dogma commentary track. There's a scene in Dogma where like Jason Lee's character is referring to that the house has central air, and they show a vent, and there's little like pieces of paper like tied to the vent to show that it's like blowing air. Sure. And in the commentary track, he's like, Kevin Smith is like, yeah, nobody has those tied to their vents, right. But in film school they teach you that your audience is super, super dumb. Yeah. So you have to do shit like that.
Yeah.
And
ridiculous. I've never seen a fan like that in real life.
Ever. No, because why would. So, but these guys have these syringes, and even though they've clearly got fluorescent yellow liquid in them, they're squirting the liquid out. They're all like standing there and squirting the liquid out.
I hate in movies when somebody comes up with a syringe to jack into somebody or to poke somebody with it, and they squeeze some of the juice out. It's like, you just wasted all that juice. It was supposed to go injected. Like, you can see that it's up to the level that it needs to go. You can see that it's, when you do squeeze it into someone, all of the juice is going to go out. But
Yeah.
they squeeze. At one point I was in EMT, and one of the things I've always been worried about, because I saw it in some movie, was getting like a air bubble injected into myself for whatever. I don't know why I would need. I got knocked out in a bus accident. I don't know. So I need somebody to inject some juice and make sure there's no air bubble. Okay, if that's what you're doing, but these are werewolves injecting werewolf serum into themselves. I think if there's an air bubble, it doesn't matter. So what are you doing that, and why are you wasting it and squirting it all over these people? It's like it's getting on somebody. That juice is
not
getting
only
on somebody,
that,
and they're wasting.
What is like their plan? Like the werewolf cults. Like, what is their plan? Like, why are they even doing this?
I think they're just either eating people or turning people. I don't know what their goal is. I think they're
they don't ever make it clear. Like they're just like, we want to. I mean, they're already doing this like Blade Rave.
That's a good point.
Every full moon. This just lets them do it when it's not a full moon.
Yeah, and that's a good point. They never do say why do they want to kill all these people. That's why I think when they say specifically Americans, I think it's just for food, and for some reason Americans take. Obviously, we saw the grease that we eat in this movie. And so we probably taste better, I would imagine. I know I do, but like, I just feel like, I don't know. Is that really, I guess we don't need it. It's fine. This movie's got a lot going for it anyway. It doesn't need to explain the villain's motive, to great extent anyway.
So then you have the train scene.
Okay. So what's the train scene?
So you do have that neat thing where like, it's ridiculous to handcuff yourself to like whatever, but like that part, it was kind of neat. Like, the shit moment of being like, I'm handcuffed to a fucking werewolf.
And you can't tell that it's transforming chained to your fucking wrist.
Well, he's wearing a robe.
But you can't,
he's transforming under the robe.
You can't feel like your arm jiggling around and like look down and see something going on, and that like there's hair coming out, and like what a dumb ass.
That's the other thing about the fucking Blade Rave, is it like it looks cool when people are before they turn into like CGI nightmares, right. Like they look cool, like their veins are popping out of their heads, and they look like roided out and they look cool. But
can you imagine if the effects were better for the werewolves, what it would have looked like coming out from under that hood? It would look awesome. Oh man, that would have been a cool scene. But instead, it's like this like fucking shiny, glistening, greasy mess,
like monkey face. Yeah,
it was a monkey of some kind.
But the other thing is, when people are this happens the whole movie. When people are mid transformation, their faces are completely full on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Morphed.
Yeah.
The people around them are like, hey man, what's up? What's going on? Like they just like,
it's like that Seinfeld where like Jerry's dating this woman who under a certain light looks like Frankenstein. and like not in the light, she's like really pretty, but she gets under this light and it's like, whoa, like, how are you not noticing this? How are you not?
Well, not even not know, like just their reaction is on par with like if somebody farted, they're like, hey man, what's up with that? And like, meanwhile, the guy's growing like a snout out of his fucking face.
Like, dude, nobody.
Like, whoa, what the fuck is happening?
Dude, I have never farted and gotten the reaction of, hey man, what's up with that? And I in turn have never reacted that way when somebody farted. hey man, what's up with that?
But it is like the most like, like it's what everybody acts like that. It's crazy. Yeah. So then the Blade Rave goes on. They're like, we got to go find, what are they even going to do?
I don't know, but somehow they end up in a train.
They end up in the subway.
Yeah, and somebody, that's what it is. I remember now. They end up in the subway. The train is coming, and Tom Hanks is laying on the tracks, right? Mm-hmm. And the train is coming, and Tom Hanks backs up out of the tracks, and just as the werewolf jumps and the train hits it, and I think it's the conductor goes something like, it doesn't kill the werewolf, and the werewolf ends up getting onto the train. I think the conductor goes like, "Are you okay?" Or no, he said something like, I don't know, something happens about the werewolf doesn't respond to being asked if he's okay or something. And I wrote down, if you get hit by a fucking train, you usually can't respond. And I'm like, why? Because somebody in this movie was perplexed that someone else wasn't responding after getting hit by a train. And I'm like, how are you perplexed by someone not responding when they get hit by a train? You're an idiot. So anyway. But this whole thing culminates into the best scene in the movie, and I'm being serious.
So then he gets hit by the train.
Is this Glob? That's Glob, right?
Yeah, Glob gets hit by the train as a werewolf. Wakes up, eats. I think he eat the conductor. He eats somebody. He goes to the back of the train. He climbs into the back of the train and is eating people.
Now from here through this whole scene, I say, and I'm serious, you can see my face, like, I think this is good stuff. This is good. It's filmed well. It's directed well. The aesthetic of how the train scene looks, they nailed it, I think. And Glob at this point is in his human form. Right.
Well, he runs out of gas. He gets in the train car, and then he just
and there's that last syringe. Right. And he falls down.
Yeah. Well, where's that last syringe even come from?
It's on Glob's wrist.
That's right. They're wearing them on their wrist.
Their wrist. But I'm serious. From the point they get on this train until the train scene is over, this is a good scene. Like, it's a quality scene, I think.
So the next thing, then Tom Hanks gets on the train,
right,
and is fighting him while he's human.
And there's people all around,
and people like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
They're in the next car.
Right.
And then this pissed me off to no end. They're fighting. He looks on his chest and he sees a scar.
Right. And he remembers.
And he's like, oh, I stabbed the werewolf that bit me with this piece of a fence.
Right.
And he realizes that Glob bit him and not Sarah, which is such a fucking cop out at the end of the movie. Like, he didn't even have to think about the whole movie. Like, what am I gonna do? I really like this girl and I gotta eat her heart. Well, that's after he accidentally shoots her.
Right. We skipped over at the end of Blade Rave 2. She's all jacked up and getting ready to, like, maybe die. And she's like, I'm going to die anyway. You got to cut out my heart and eat it. And the cops come and start shooting, and he grabs a gun and runs away. And that's when we get to the subway.
Yeah.
So he's still thinking, I got to eat her heart, until he sees this scar on Glob's chest and remembers that he stabbed him with a fork.
Yeah. And I do. And then they fight. He accidentally gets stabbed himself with this syringe. And I do
Tom
like
Hanks
that.
Does.
Yes.
And so this is what I'm talking about.
This is
a really cool little, the whole train thing is cool, but this scene, because the camera is outside of the train car looking in through the windows as Tom Hanks, like, in slow motion kind of transforms, and the way he like turns, he aims his werewolf, like, all right, if I'm going to be werewolf, I'm going to fucking aim it at this dude. Exactly. You know? And because as a werewolf, you can't really control it. So like you said, like, he aims it, and he, like, the way he turns past the windows as his face is beginning to change into that Buffy state, and then goes forward. That's a really well directed. I really like that little flicker. Cool. It looked cool. A little flicker of a scene. I was like, that's dope. And I remember thinking that when I first saw this movie, I was like, oh, well, we're going to end on the highest note of the movie anyway. And then he
tackles,
but he transforms fully, tackles Glob, and just he like rips his heart out.
Eats his heart. Yeah. And
curse done. Curse is ended.
Which then I think it goes from, then it fades out.
Fade out. 90s.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Before it does that, it's before this. At some point, regular friend is like, hey, you got him. And he like turns to dust.
Goes into the forest and like,
right.
Yeah.
Which is annoying because like, well, they killed that guy like an hour ago. Why are you just doing this now? Right. Or whatever. It's like, hey, you killed random werewolf. They bit me earlier.
Right.
Like, all right, fine. So he's gone.
Yep.
And then I think they have the fight at the end. Like, I think that happens before.
Something. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, then it goes, then you have the card several full moons later.
and they're on
well, wait, no. They're
wait.
Seemingly they're in a church. They're you
Oh
know,
yeah.
She's in her wedding gown.
Right.
He's in a tuxedo.
Right.
And
AC Slater's there. And
he goes, I got the rings, but someone's coming.
Or do I? And he's like feeling for the rings. Cliche. That's fine.
Then he drops the ring.
Yep.
Drops the ring. It rolls. It goes over the edge. We don't know where they are yet.
AC Slater hits a pole.
Yeah, they all three of them are booking to chase this wedding ring.
Right.
And which, by the way, most wedding rings, like at least like that the woman would wear, they're not like this where like they would roll. They're not like the one ring. They have like shit on. They have diamonds and shit on them. Like they
really?
wouldn't roll like that.
Okay.
I mean, I think so.
I don't know.
I bought one, but yeah, like I don't know. The engagement ring's the bigger one. It's a whole anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say it was his ring. Whatever.
Right. It's rolling.
And their reaction is to dive over this
edge.
Just dive over the edge of this fence to reveal that they're bungee jumping off.
Oh, right.
The Statue of Liberty.
Statue of Liberty.
And then
so good.
Again, these guys don't tie off before they fucking dive off these giant structures. And this time Slater misses it. But again, he Spider-Mans it. He catches the ring, puts it on, and then they kiss. And then they realize, oh man, one of them's not tied off, but it doesn't matter because
he grabs her and they're hugging.
And then the movie ends. Then it's a hard cut to a Bush song.
Which is a Bush remix of a decent song, and they made it into a really bad song, and I was really upset at that, but whatever. Man.
So here's okay. There's a lot of questions that they just leave unanswered.
Right.
One, I wrote these down because I'm like, wait. Is Seraphine? She's still a werewolf.
Yeah. Well,
right?
who turned her?
They don't ever say.
Okay.
I think they say that she turned Claude. Or
he's cured because he killed Glob. I'm actually going to go the other way and assume that she's cured because all of the other werewolves were dead. They killed them all, right?
I guess so.
Maybe. Or maybe they did.
But does that doesn't make you mean she doesn't become a werewolf anymore? She's still like as far as like a curse would be concerned, she's still a werewolf.
Some part of me thought that Glob changed her and that when he killed Glob, he shared the heart with her. Is that not referenced or said?
No, not at all. He eats that heart like whole.
Huh. Maybe he like did that mama bird thing where he like regurgitated part of it into her mouth or something. I don't know why I thought that Glob changed her as well.
I think they referenced earlier when she's talking to her undead mom that she changed him. She changed Claude. But okay, so let's say what, I'm willing to let that one go and be like, you know what? Hey, just lock her in a cage every full moon, and you could probably have a pretty otherwise regular relationship.
Sure.
Okay. The other thing is your girl, Julie Bowen, is just stuck now being undead.
Oh yeah, that's right. Because he
they just
killed
leave her hanging.
When was the last time we saw her?
When she was like trying to like flag down the werewolf guys
and gets hit by, or the bus goes
that's another point of the movie where I was like, that's actually a really smart move, is he's hiding from the werewolf guys and he's hiding behind. So there's, first of all, the place he hides is at a red light. There's like 4 cars stopped and he's hiding in between the 2 cars.
Right. And one of those cars could have squished him.
Well, yeah, like their cars are going to move any second.
Right.
But what he does is, because she starts waving, that's when she knocks her eyeball out. She starts like trying to wave the werewolf cult guys to get him. He kicks the bumper, and that driver gets out and yells at the other driver because he thinks he rear-ended him. And they start arguing.
Right.
Which I mean, I feel like would just draw attention to you, but whatever. Right. Which it does, and then they go and anyway. And the other thing, I mean, how do they get down from the Statue of Liberty? Like
there's steps. Oh, they're hanging.
They're hanging there.
So this is a question that I've always had. As far as I've never bungee jumped.
I have a few times.
Do they like reel you in like a fish? Like they're fishing for you?
No, it's so you go off a crane essentially, and they lower you. Like once you stop like bouncing up and down,
you don't go back up, you go down.
No, you don't go back up. They just lower you onto the net, slowly.
There's a net?
Like, yeah, there's a net just in case. Like, you know.
What if it's on like so if it's on like, hey, we're bungeeing off this cliff or something or whatever.
I guess you would have, but how would you?
I don't know. I always thought that you either had to be pulled up somehow.
Because you can't pull them up by hand. Like there's got to be
it's AC Slater, dude.
That's true. I mean, he was able to stop
parkour master,
first one.
Parkour master, master spy, master escape artist. I mean, I think we're not giving enough credit to AC Slater. Like this dude does everything in this movie. I'm serious, man.
While serving, you could cut him out of this movie completely. Like, there's no reason to have 2 friends in this movie.
But I wouldn't want to.
No, I mean,
like I said, he's a master thief. He's a master escape artist. He's a master parkour. So he's the only one with superpowers in this whole movie. I mean, werewolves, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know how they get off that. My guess, they could also possibly have been like arrested and like scooped up by something. I don't know.
I mean, you would think, yeah. I mean, a helicopter would have to come in.
Yeah. I don't know. Either way, they inconvenienced a shitload of people.
I mean, how did he get off the Eiffel Tower? I mean, even though like.
Well, the Eiffel Tower, it tapers out at the bottom. So maybe you could like grab on or something. I don't know. Slater
probably just parkoured his way.
It's possible.
Up the side and just grabbed him and slid him down.
You have any more misgivings for the end?
Those were all the ones I could think of off the top of my head.
I mean, if I could think of, I'm sure I could think of some, but again, it's like this movie achieved so much in regards to like, man, I mean, they went for the worst movie they could possibly make. And I think part of it was conscious.
What's crazy in doing like a little research, there were like 6 or 7 drafts of this, one of which was because they wanted John Landis to direct it.
Really?
And he was like, well, I'm gonna write my own script then. And they threw out his script.
Wow.
Like,
you know what though? I bet there's a good chance that maybe his script was garbage, even though this script was garbage. But a lot of times when those quote unquote master filmmakers make a masterpiece like London, and then they're like, they come back to make a sequel, it doesn't really work out the way we all hope.
No, I mean, he did it with Blues Brothers 2000. Like, it's just like, oh geez,
man, get out of here.
But this is something too that like when I was a kid.
Hold on, sorry, Blues Brothers 2000 fans. Like, I know that they're out there. I know that that is someone's favorite movie. That's fine.
That's no Blues Brothers 2000 actually makes me feel it almost when a movie comes out like Ghostbusters 2016 or like something that really pisses me off, like that. An experience I had with my friend's dad is it makes me feel better because we were hanging out and he said he came. This is like 3 years ago. He was like, you know, they made another Blues Brothers, and I was like, yeah, it's awful.
2000.
Like, yeah,
so like
it was on like Channel 9. I watched it for a few minutes. It was, I don't know what was going on. It was wild. Anyway, and then we went out the rest of our day, and that's it. Like it's a random piece of trivia that somebody, you know what I mean? Like, and that guy's seen the Blues Brothers 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And Blues Brothers 2000 wasn't even on his radar because it's terrible and completely forget. Most people, I think, probably won't even know it existed.
Right.
Which is my hope for like Ghostbusters 2016 or this movie.
You think that's the case with this movie?
No, because everybody I bring it up to, I brought it up to my brother-in-law yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I said, because we were talking about, he's telling me to watch Dr. Strangelove, which is on my list. I've never seen it either.
Dr. Strangelove?
Yeah.
Oh man, great movie.
Well, I watched this instead. He was like, we were talking about movies and he said, and we tend to be like, you haven't seen that? Watch that. And we give each other like homework. And he was like, watch Dr. Strangelove. And I'm like, I can't tonight. I'm going to watch
American Werewolf in Paris.
I'm like, I didn't even say American Werewolf in Paris. I said, have you ever seen American Werewolf in London? He's like, I think I've heard of American Werewolf in Paris. And I was like, no, that's not it. Like,
oh
that's
my God.
people.
So there's a generation out there who only knows American Werewolf in Paris and doesn't know American Werewolf in London.
If you're not a horror buff at this point, I mean, people.
That makes me sad.
People a little older than us will probably remember London because it wasn't really a smash hit. Right. It was a lot. People in that doc, they talk about a lot of people were like confused by it. Like they said it had to kind of find its audience. Like a lot of critics were like, it's too funny to be a horror movie and it's too scary to be a comedy. And he needs to decide what to make. It's like, wasn't
it nominated for visual effects though?
It won best
makeup. It did.
Yeah, okay. It won.
So it was on people's radars. It was out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember. I'm old enough to remember when. What was it? 1980.
It was 81.
Okay, 81. I remember when it was in the ether. You know, like I remember my parents seeing it and it being talked about. Obviously, I didn't see it until I was a little older, but I remember it being, you know, and to this day, my parents are a real good gauge for like what really stuck into the 80s pop culture ether because they don't remember anything. So if it's stuck in their brain, then it was out there. And this was one of them that's like, oh yeah, you know, that's a cool movie. That's a good movie.
My parents are the opposite. I don't think my mom's seen 3 movies in her whole life.
Well, that's kind of how
she doesn't like movies. She doesn't like music.
Holy cow. I mean, my parents, like, not to get into a parents thing, but I know they kind of stopped seeking out movies, especially in the theater, you know, 2 decades ago, whatever. That's why I say like they're a good gauge for the 80s because that's when
if they remember it, then
that's when I was a kid. That's when my brother was a kid and my sister was born. But like, you know, that Gremlins, Ghostbusters, that kind of stuff. But yeah, this was one of them. I don't know. I mean, American Werewolf in London was, you know, it was one of those movies that I think you couldn't escape at the time, at least being aware of like this thing was out there. This movie was out there that shows something visually that we have never seen before, you know, the transformation, which is why it won. So I don't know. I
mean, I love everything about the tone, the pacing. I mean, I could go on all day about the first, but I don't want to call it the first one. But the fact that people like, it's not uncommon to say like American Werewolf in London. Do you mean Paris? No. Like, but I feel, and people that aren't like our parents' age, even that are like around our age, if they're not horror people, they're not movie people, I don't feel like they know about. You know, it's not Ghostbusters or Gremlins. You know what I mean? You kind of
Right.
had to have seen it,
Right.
It's, it's, I mean, that fucking movie. Yeah. I strongly recommend that documentary, man. It is
If you find out,
something.
that that documentary is available somewhere other than on the DVD, let me know. I would love to watch it.
I think it might
Like,
be, it's on YouTube, but in parts.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
everything's in parts on YouTube.
I have multiple DVDs of American Werewolf in London
Maybe I'll buy
because
next time, or when it's safe to go outside. Maybe
yeah,
I'll borrow that from you.
yeah, for sure.
Cool.
It's a solid one, man. It's
Cool.
yeah, they spend as much time going into the effects as like, man, yeah, and they nail it. They interview the people that were in the pub.
Yeah.
Which
the townsfolk, which was something that this movie was missing. Yeah, we got Jean Reno and we got a couple other people from France or Paris, but that was something in London that those people added an authenticity to that movie. I don't remember anybody in this movie really, except for like Buff Condom
Slater.
Man. No, Buff Condom.
Oh,
Man
the guy in the red. Yeah.
And Jean Reno, as far as French people go.
Yeah.
And adding a sense of like, oh, we're in Paris. Like in American Werewolf in London, when they were in the back country and all that, like you got a feel of what it was like to live out there in the sticks. When they made it to London and we had the nurse and the cops and the doctor, we got a feel of what it was like to live where they lived in downtown London. When the werewolf broke out of the theater and went bogus all over everybody at the end, you got to feel the scene in the tube, the London Underground.
Oh God, that's my favorite shot in the whole movie.
Yeah,
is when he's on the escalator, and that overhead shot, and you just see how big the fucking thing is,
and then it cuts like boom.
Yeah, it's like whoa. Dude.
I was in London in 2001, and repositioned myself, in all of those scenes when I took the tube and London Underground. And man, when you're down in there, have you ever been?
I've never been to London. No.
When you're down in there, like you can really feel what they're showing in that movie, and how terrifying that would be. But
I mean, it's now. Oh, I just not to. It would, since we're talking about the first one, I have to get my hands on the DVD of this. By the way, this got released on VHS and DVD, and that's it. And that DVD is way out of print.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's not like one that is expensive because nobody probably wants it. Right. But it's I mean, you watched it on Tubi, right? And
yeah. So for anybody who wants to watch this movie, it's for free on Tubi, which is also free. Tubi, if you're listening, let's talk about a partnership sponsor. But
the original, I guess I read, and I want to see if this is actually on the DVD, but originally I guess there were deleted scenes that did tie to the first movie.
Oh, really?
One was that they showed on, like, there was a wall in the cult member's house that showed like a bunch of former members, and that and this is like a really loose background, probably detail, that the werewolf in the beginning of the movie that bit David,
right, was
a member.
Okay.
And then the other detail that I'm very glad they didn't do is that, because if you remember, she refers to the legless werewolf,
right,
as her stepdad, as her stepfather, and in apparently a deleted scene, I don't know if this scene exists or if you can see it anywhere, she is the daughter of David and Alex from the first movie.
Shit. Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been that would have been a little convenient. Yeah, that's like, what? That's too ironic.
Well, you could have been like, yeah, she's been a vampire, or she's been a werewolf for her whole life. Like, you. And that's the other thing. Like, I remember when I was a kid, and it was like American Werewolf in Paris. Okay, because the other one, it's not. There's no room for a sequel, obviously, with that ending. What a cool idea for like an anthology series. Like, we're gonna do except it's the same rules every time, except we're changing the location. Like imagine like an American Werewolf in Dubai, or like, you know what I mean, or in like an American Werewolf in like Soviet Russia. Like this is a franchise if you want to make it, man.
All right, nobody. We've got that trademarked, by the way. Nobody can make an American Werewolf in Dubai except for us. Okay, that's.
I mean,
ours.
you could do an American Werewolf in Cancun. You could do.
My
I mean,
God, that's
think
so
of it.
Good. No.
It's right there.
Coming summer 2020, summer 2022 or 23. I think we were going to push it back. American Werewolf in Dubai. That's us.
I mean,
whew, man,
talk about, and it's like, I'm not usually like into anthology series, but that's when I would see like,
yeah, dude, you could do that.
You could go in and you know the rules already. You know that there's going to be an undead, whatever. Like, and how does it affect? Just change the location, and the you don't even need any returning castmen. In fact, don't do it. It's just what are you guys doing? And they don't have to be related at all. You know, tied to each other. They can just be like, you can even have different lore. I mean, you know, like the Middle East, India, every place has its own. You can look up its own lore of beasts and creatures and supernatural and stuff like that. And even though it might be a Dracula, it's a different lore than what we know here in the Western world. Yeah, there's so much you could do with that, and like that. But that's Hollywood, man. They can't see their assholes for their asses, you know, or whatever. Like, it's there's, and so so you should stop talking about it because you're giving away all the great, I'm telling you, I'm suing anybody that makes American Werewolf in Dubai. Okay, I'm serious. All right, are we done with this Paris? Yeah, we're done with this. I'm never watching this again. Shit. Yeah, you know, that's the good thing about this movie and this first episode is that we put a movie to bed. You know, like we will never have to watch this movie again in our lives. All right. So seriously though, if anybody wants to watch it, it's out there for free on several places. We found it. And in all seriousness, I would encourage, whether it's this movie or another movie that you're like, you either grew up not liking. I think you mentioned another one earlier. I forget what it was, but revisit some of that stuff, you know, like refamiliarize yourself with something that you wrote off, you know, and because I mean, we rewatched this my first time since 97, and it was worse than what I remembered. But there's a lot of movies out there that when we were going through the list of A's, just in A's, I was like, man, I haven't seen that in a while. But I really wanted to watch this because London is so good. And because London is the one that everyone talks about, and nobody would dare launch a podcast and on the first episode talk about An American Werewolf in Paris. So we did it. Fuck all you guys. You know, like I'm so glad that we did this as our first, but it's a movie. Yeah. As of this recording, while we're sitting here right now, I'm not sure whether we're going to be hosted on Anchor or Podbean. We're still looking into that, but by the time you're listening to this, that will have been decided. So I can't tell you guys where to find us quite yet, but most podcast aggregators will, this will be available there on your aggregator, whatever app you use. In the meantime, you know, we are just starting this endeavor. And as far as contacting us, wherever you're listening to this, you should be able to comment for now, but we will have an email. We will have a social media presence at some point, maybe, I guess. Yeah. Otherwise, why do this? We're just putting it out there to the ether and nobody's picking up on it. I mean, I'm up for, I need someone to talk about this shit with, man. My wife hates horror movies. Yeah. So, my wife doesn't even like Gremlins. Hates Gremlins. Man, throw her away. Take the kids, throw her away. You know. They tell you about the doll. Sorry, yeah, we know we're having this up. But I bought my daughter a Gizmo doll, and it's the most annoying doll. And my wife. Oh yeah, you mentioned that, but every kid should have something like that. Yeah.
but yeah, if you're listening to this, thank you for listening. And we've got the letter B coming up next. We're going to try to do this once a week and stick to it, at least for 26 episodes.
Yeah.
You know,
And any suggestions?
Suggestions.
This up on whatever
gripes and complaints.
Yeah, gripes, advice, whatever.
However uncouth and un-PC we were, you're welcome to bring that to our attention, but we don't care. And yeah, this was fun. I'm glad
this was fun.
I'm glad we did it. We don't know. We haven't picked a movie for B yet. So normally we'd be able to say, hey, tune in for B where it's this and that. But we'll get the hang of this. We'll figure it out. And
yeah, there's a lot of good B's. There's a lot of good B's.
Did you already look at some?
I mean, I'm looking at some right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay,
my horror movies are right there.
Cool. Yeah,
I mean,
I'm excited to see what we've got, what our options are. But we will be weekly, you know, as far as we, at least we're saying that right now. So anyway, thanks for listening to Death by Podcast, episode 1. I'm Adam. That guy over there, that's Kevin. And thanks for being here. Y'all be safe. Be good to each other. Help your community. Watch some horror movies. Get scary. Kevin?
Agreed.
All right. We're out. See you guys.
See you.